which helps for.
And that is the latest news. Weather, traffic next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hello, everybody. 6 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. It is the first day of December. There are 24 shopping days until Christmas, so get busy. I'll expect a little something in my stocking.
Oh.
No.
Right.
No.
Besides coal?
No. I'm your friend and radio buddy. That would be rude. I wouldn't do that to you. Let's head down to the swamp right off the bat here because there have been some activity today. I do want to mention right off the top that it's very sad to hear about the passing of Sandra Day O'Connor as a former Supreme Court justice, first woman to serve on the high court. We'll spend some time, and I think it is in the next hour. Yes, the next hour, talking about the life and times of this woman and how important she was on the national scene. But let's talk about what's happening mostly on Capitol Hill. We are getting closer, one step closer, it would appear, to potentially having an impeachment of Joe Biden. You go, what? What's happening? Well, as you know, the House of Representatives, controlled by Republicans, has begun an impeachment inquiry, and they are now looking into whether or not there's enough evidence there to actually begin an actual impeachment proceeding against the sitting president of the United States. And they started that, but they never took a vote on it. And there's no requirement that there be a vote on it, but it seems that if you do give a vote on it, it brings it a little more credibility, I guess is the right word to use. So it looks like the House is now talking about having an actual impeachment inquiry vote within the next 2 weeks. And I think what they see on the horizon, the Republicans and the new Speaker of the House, is that, it's starting to look pretty interesting, this investigation into Joe Biden's business dealings and his connection to his son's, corrupt business dealings. And, the question is, was he somehow compromised by taking money from some of these ne'er-do-wells that Hunter Biden was doing business with around the world? GOP members leaving a meeting where they discussed this said they heard from the 3 committee chairs leading the investigation, and they once again discussed whether a formal vote would help back the legitimacy of the inquiry as they face resistance from the White House to their subpoenas. So, if it gives them a little more legitimacy, a little more credibility, then fine. They've got the votes. I think all Republicans would vote for it, and that would get the thing started. And then, if they do decide that there's enough there to begin an impeachment process, that would follow sometime later. There was big doings in the House of Representatives today as a vote of 311 to 114. The House of Representatives expelled a member of the House. His name is George Santos of New York, and he is a Republican. So it's 311 to 114, 2 voting present. Democrats and many Republicans supported the move to remove Santos. More than half of GOP lawmakers, including Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, said he shouldn't be expelled before his criminal case had been resolved. But it didn't matter. The votes were there, and now Santos is no longer, he's persona non grata on Capitol Hill. He had to turn in his pen and was escorted from the building. And that's the way it works when you get expelled. It's a very rare thing. It doesn't happen very often. The last one was Congressman Jim Traficant, and that was some time ago. And there's only been, I think, about 6 people in the history of this country who have been members of the House who have been expelled, some of them going way back to the Civil War time. So it's an unusual action. What did he do? Well, he lied, according to a lot of evidence, that he lied about his work history, his educational achievements, his family background, and then that prompted deeper scrutiny of his campaign funds and his financial dealings, and then that prompted an investigation by federal prosecutors in New York who have charged Santos with an array of crimes, including those for allegedly scamming political donors, lying to the Federal Election Commission, and illegally receiving unemployment insurance benefits. He pleaded not guilty to a 23-count superseding indictment. He is scheduled to go on trial in September. And there were those who said, he ought to be able to go through that trial before we make a judgment. But I think it was the other stuff about him lying about his credentials when he ran for office. He lied to the people in his home district. And that was one of the reasons why they decided to take this action. Santos, defiant ahead of the vote, he said it would be improper. Before this, the court case played out. Are we to assume that one is no longer innocent until proven guilty, and they are in fact guilty until proven innocent? He said on the House floor. The vote was prompted by the release of a report from the House Ethics Committee that found there was substantial evidence that Santos stole money from donors, filed false disclosures with election officials. Other alleged misdeeds include spending campaign money on personal credit card balances and buying goods and services at Hermes, Sephora, and OnlyFans. Santos sought to fraudulently exploit every aspect of his House candidacy for his own personal profit, the report said. Santos had said that he wouldn't run for re-election, but dismissed the document as a disgusting politicized smear. But again, George Santos is out. Now, why is this of interest? Well, it's interest because it's rare. It's interest because, well, you know what? Republicans don't have that much of a lead over Democrats, and they just lost one. And what will happen next? Great story from thehill.com. The House voted to expel George Santos, leaving the GOP conference with one fewer lawmaker and an already slim majority. The Constitution requires that all House vacancies be filled through a special election, which are scheduled by the state's governor. This is New York State. The New York State governor is Kathy Hochul, and she is a Democrat. So she will have to call a special election. New York State allows for special election when the vacancy occurs more than 3 months ahead of the next general election. So she has she will have to call for an election within 10 days of the expulsion and must have the election take place between 70 to 80 days later. That's state law. The time frame would have an election sometime in February or early March. And in the meantime, the seat would remain vacant and the people of his congressional district will not have representation. Instead of holding traditional party primaries for Democrat and Republican voters to pick a nominee, local party leaders would select the special election candidates under the state's election law. So the Republicans will put up their person and the Democrats will put up their person, and an election will be taking place sometime in February or March. Who could fill the seat? Santos represents New York's 3rd congressional district in Long Island. Announced he would not seek re-election. The decision marked an apparent shift in plans after saying weeks before he would still run for a seat even if he was expelled. He said now he won't do that. There are some names that have been thrown up. Since it's in New York State, I don't think these names mean anything to you, but it'll be interesting to see who the party leaders put forward for this particular position. Now, as I said, one of the things that's concerning here is that Santos' expulsion takes away a key seat from the House GOP's razor-thin majority. With just 4-vote majority, Speaker Mike Johnson could afford almost no defections on any partisan bill. Now he's missing another crucial vote, so there's only a 3-vote lead, Republicans over Democrats, in the House. You lose 3 votes in the Republican conference, and your matter will not pass. The Democrats will win. And while Santos flipped New York's 3rd congressional district seat from Democrat to Republican, there is no guarantee it will remain red in the runoff. In fact, there's a fairly good chance, I would say, that seat will be lost to the Democrats. Representative Anthony D'Esposito, whose district is near Santos, appeared to dismiss any concerns, telling reporters that Nassau and Suffolk counties are a bright shade of red. Okay, we'll see how that works out. But it is New York State. What comes next for him? Well, he's got to face all of these legal issues, and it looks like that will keep him tied up for a while. Then I found this story in the swamp today, and I only found it in one place, justthenews.com. It's a place I look at pretty regularly. Vanished. House panel chairman says January 6 videotapes of witness interviews are missing. You'll remember that the Democrats ran their own investigation of January 6th, and they did a bunch of witness interviews, and they, of course, as these depositions are done, they were recorded. And now that the Republicans are in charge of the House of Representatives, they wanted to go back and look at some of those documents and some of those witness interviews, and it turns out they don't exist anymore. Videotapes of witness interviews that the Democrat-led January 6th Congressional Committee conducted have vanished, raising concerns for the chairman of the successor House panel that is now examining security failures related to the Capitol riot, as well as possible implications for upcoming criminal trials. All the videotapes of all depositions are gone. Wow, says Representative Barry Loudermilk, chairman of the House Administration Oversight Subcommittee. He spoke to Just the News. Loudermilk says he believes the under House rules, the videotapes qualified as congressional evidence because some clips were aired at hearings, and all of the tapes should have been preserved by the now-defunct J6 committee and its chairman at the time, Representative Benny Thompson, Democrat of Mississippi. Thompson's not returning calls about this. We found out, quote, about this early in the investigating when I received a call from someone who was looking for information off one of the videotapes. We started searching. We couldn't find them. I wrote a letter to Benny Thompson asking for them, and he confirmed they did not preserve those type of records. he didn't feel that they had to. But he goes on to say, according to House rules, you have to preserve any data and information and documents that you use in an official proceeding. The J6 Democrats, actually aired portion of these tapes on their televised hearings, which meant they were supposed to keep them. But he chose not to do so. I believe they exist somewhere. We've got to find out where all these videos are. That's interesting. House Republicans have no records of who they talked to, who the witnesses were, or why they were being used by federal prosecutors in their case against Trump. The documents belong to the House. Oh, yeah, this is the really weird thing. Laudermilk revealed another tantalizing twist in the J6 committee evidence. The Democrat-led House committee sent certain evidence, such as transcripts, to the Biden White House and Homeland Security Department. Why would they do that? Why would there be any interest up on Capitol Hill? I mean, at the White House, of something that happened on Capitol Hill in a different administration. I don't understand this. Separation of powers and all of that. Why would they have sent anything to the White House? And then when the House Republicans reached out to the White House, they sent back what they had, and everything was 100% redacted. The documents belong to the House. They should have never been sent to the White House. Second of all, do not send them back to me heavily redacted. Those are our documents. My question is, why was it okay for a Democrat-run House of Representatives to have unredacted documents, but then not when there's a Republican committee that's looking into what happened on that day for perhaps different reasons? They still had a reason to have access to those documents. So what happened? Where are those documents? What did they show? Why in the world were they sent to the White House? And why is it that prosecutors who are looking at trying to build a J6 case against Donald Trump have them, but the Republicans on the committee that followed on after they took over the control of the House do not? This smells really ratty here. I'll tell you, there's some bad action here, and I hope that they eventually get the documents, but I'm not sure they will because, well, as Benny Thompson said, we didn't keep them. Sorry about that. I'd like to know more. Inquiring minds want to know more. 20 minutes now, past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Talk to you about my friends over at Grace Point Healthcare. They deliver medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing, so you know how much it costs before the care is delivered. Smart Care plans start at just $69 a month. You get unlimited office visits, free basic labs for the entire year. And because they treat the whole family, even newborns, they offer family plans as well. Now, if you were to marry this with a high-deductible insurance plan, it will save you and your family hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible, and it is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast and Music City year after year after year. Now, Grace Point Healthcare does COVID testing and can provide certain therapies that they say will get you over it more quickly. So if you think you have COVID, come in and get tested and then talk to them about potential treatments. Great Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin. 599-6868 to schedule a visit.
Former President Trump and his election interference case, an update there, a huge mudslide in Alaska, and it's been deathly. And is a new burger joint making its way to Middle Tennessee. We'll tell you about it. 3:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I won't give it away, but Dan Mandis is apoplectic about this. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to lose his mind over this one. Yeah. I'm Brian Wilson. That's Mac Morey there in the newsroom. Mac, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
And it's good to have you in the chair. And they're over in the control room pushing all the blinky buttons and ably producing this program. He's the glue that holds the whole thing together.
Oh, yeah.
It's Chris Weber.
That's why they call me Elmer.
That's right. Hello. We're not going to call you Chris anymore. We'll just call you Elmer. Oh, my gosh. It's been an eventful last 24 hours here at Stately Wilson Manor because, I forgot how much I hated 2 a.m. feedings.
Yeah.
Oof. You know, when you have a baby, it's a thing where you got to feed the baby every 2 hours, Well, we don't have a baby, but we have a baby puppy.
Mm-hmm.
And she needs to eat every 2 hours. I just got the updated information from Cabana Wife. Solo, the second best known French bulldog in all of Middle Tennessee, is coming in at 13.4 ounces. A hefty 13.4 ounces.
Wow.
Yeah.
3/4 of a pound or something like that, right?
That's right. She's really doing well. And but I'm doing the 1 a.m. and then the 3 a.m. feedings, and then I get to go back to sleep.
Gosh.
It's like but it's not as bad as you might think. If I was a younger man, it wouldn't be such a problem. It would be a bigger problem probably. But because I've reached a certain age, well, I get up 2 or 3 times a night anyway. It doesn't matter.
That's true.
You get up, so you just take care of it while you're up, and that's fine. But doing that kind of thing, and she's a feisty little thing. I mean, she got a lot of spirit, and she's just so tiny. And the cute factor about French bulldogs, of course, I think, is their ears. Their ears stand up, and they're just, they're little adorable, creatures because those ears are always standing up like they're at attention, and it makes them, very cute, and everybody loves them. Her little ears, when they're born, they're folded back.
Yeah.
And then now her little ears are already starting to stand up.
Oh,
a little
wow.
bit. Oh, it's so adorable. I mean, she still can't see. She's got her eyes closed, and that'll be weeks before that happens. But she's coming right along, and Mama and baby are doing well. When she we have her in a basket, and when we only put the 2 dogs together at feeding time because a mama dog might unconsciously roll over on a puppy, when they're young. And these puppies are so small that we decided we would do that. Last night, we have a puppy cam set up so that if anything happens and the little squeaker starts squeaking, we get up and see what's going on. The other day, she started squalling like I'd never heard before. And she had climbed up inside a crocheted blanket that Cabana Wife had put over in her little basket to keep her warm. And she was wrapped up. I don't know how in the world she got into that thing, wrapped up like a butterfly inside a cocoon. I mean, and she was just making all this racket. I said, how in the world did you get in there, you little munchkin?
Already mischievous.
Yep, she's gonna be trouble, and so we're really enjoying it as much as it is sort of a hassle. I take the overnight feedings because Cabana Wife largely has the afternoon when I'm working and most of the day. It's only fair, I think.
What do you feed her? I've never had a baby puppy. What do you?
You bring her over to the mama.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then she still feeds,
Gotcha.
you just have to help her find the right spot.
Yes. Okay. Understood.
I mean, when she latches on, man, it's like she goes to town. Yeah. And if you try to wiggle her or move her, she just starts making all kinds of racket. Adorable little dog. Just adorable
so
little
sweet.
dog.
It'll be over before you know it, though.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, in just a few weeks, the eyes come open and then they start going everywhere, and it's going to be chaos like we have never seen. But we knew what we were getting into because we've had one of these when she was a puppy, and it was fun. It was challenging, but it was fun. Don't put anything on the floor is my recommendation if you've never had a French Bulldog before, because if it's on the floor, it's theirs.
That's true. That's what they
say.
You
have to baby-proof a house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had to Bulldog-proof a house. That's what I.
Hey, everything counter level or higher, right?
That's right, exactly. I want to remind you that we have a live event coming up on Thursday, December 7th, starting at 4 o'clock over at Scoreboard at Cedar Creek Marina in Wilson County, in Mount Juliet. It will be. We're talking about the year that we're about to leave and the year that is ahead, which will be an all-important election year. Join Dan Mandis, Chris, and Matt, and I'll be there as well as we broadcast live. And you may wonder, something that wonderful and exciting, that's got to be an expensive ticket. How much would that cost? And I'm here to tell you, not a penny. Free.
Wow.
It's free. Free. That's right. You just show up. You don't need a ticket. Just show up. And you can get all the details at 997WTN.com. 31 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock.
It's 3:31. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 59 degrees, cloudy, a little rainy, a lot of that this weekend. We'll tell you all about it. Traffic complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. In a Fulton County court, former President Trump's attorney argued an election interference case needs to be dismissed on the grounds that it prosecutes conduct protected by the First Amendment. Im Nguyen has more from Washington.
Criminal defense attorney Stephen Sadow said former President Trump's claims of widespread voter fraud after the 2020 presidential election was political speech protected by the First Amendment. He said the indictment
violates free speech, freedom of petitioning, all the expressions that the First Amendment is designed to protect.
He also pushed back on the DA's proposed August 5th trial date, saying coming so close to November, it would be the most effective election interference in U.S. history. The special prosecutor Nathan Wade said that's not true. That trial would simply be moving forward with business.
And the ongoing search for effort for victims from a mudslide last month in a remote town in Alaska has resulted in another body found in debris. Alex Stone.
When the mud came down onto homes in Wrangell, Alaska, north of Ketchikan on November 20th, members of families disappeared. 4 bodies were found in recent weeks, and on Thursday, Alaska state troopers say the body of 65-year-old Otto Florschutz was found. Using an excavator to move through debris, his neighbors, the Hellers, were killed in their home. Timothy Heller, Beth Heller, and their children, 16-year-old Mara and 11-year-old Cara. 12-year-old Derek Heller remains missing. The search is ongoing for him.
And right now in Tennessee, an In-N-Out Burger in Middle Tennessee is now in the early planning stages. It's been proposed to build it in Antioch in the Century Farms development. And In-N-Out announced previously that they'll be putting a corporate office in Franklin. It'll create around 280 jobs. Construction for that office expected to be complete by 2026. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
I want to talk to you about gold. Gold's been used as money for millennia. It's a tried and true store of value. It's consistent across many, many generations. And generational wealth has three components some have observed: land, art, and precious metals. Land, whew, have you looked at interest rates? That's hard to buy. Art, do you know anything? I wouldn't know a Monet from a Degas. I really wouldn't, but it's hard to evaluate. Precious metals, however, like gold, platinum, and silver, are practical solutions. Inflation is currently decreasing the value of your money, and gold and silver can be a safe haven during uncertain economic times. You can learn all about the importance of owning precious metals by going to Nashville Gold and Coin. I mean, do you have gold that was given to you and you're not sure what it's worth, or you're just curious about precious metals and want to learn more? Do you have some interesting old coins laying around the house that you think might have some value? You know, they can give you some advice about that as well. Learn all about the importance of owning precious metals by going to Nashville Gold and Coin. They are always available to discuss your options and to educate you on the precious metals market. Do what I did. Go to Nashville's real money source, Nashville Gold and Coin. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com to set up your one-on-one appointment. It is 38 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and you're listening to The Drive for this Friday, December 1st. That's right. We're already into December. I mean, boy, November blew past in a hurry, didn't it? I mean, it was like, here's November 1, then we're eating turkey, and then here we are. We're in December. What was that sound effect? Oh.
Kind of sounded like one of the squishes.
It does. It's like shoo-wee. Let's do this 2024 update. You know, on this program, I have tried to explain to you from time to time that when it comes to a presidential election, really, there's one thing you need to understand. Imagine that the electorate it's roughly this. It's not exactly this, but it's just safer to sake of this example. It's like a third of conservatives, a third who are liberals, and then there's about a third that's in the middle. Actually, the largest political group in America are independents. There are more independents than there are anybody else. And actually, I think a lot of those independents probably are conservatives. They just don't want to say that they are. When you ask them what their positions are, a lot of people who claim to be independents are actually much more conservative than you might imagine. But one way or the other, in an election environment, you cannot win a national election if you do not appeal to the mushy middle. You've got to have some of them. Now, that's the old saying in politics is, during the primaries, in Republican Party politics, you run to the right during the primaries, and then you run to the center during the general election. But you have to have a following in the middle if you have any chance at all of winning. If you don't win the middle, and whoever wins the middle generally wins the election. Let's just put it that way. All right. So don't be offended. I'm not saying that we have to pander to the middle. We don't have to get all squishy. We just have to understand that they have an important role in all of this. And so it's this story that catches my attention, because Joe Biden is losing support among independents in a huge way. I've been telling you that the numbers are shifting toward Trump and away from Biden. And I think this probably, if you will know, really gets into it. This is a Gallup poll. And Gallup, say what you will about polls, is sort of considered the gold standard of polling. President Joe Biden's support among independents sank 8 points to a record low of 27% in September. So only 27% of independents support Joe Biden. This is according to a Gallup poll, flagging a key indicator for the 2024 election will be a close race between Biden and likely GOP nominee, former President Donald Trump. Now, I want to just share some of these numbers because it tells you how badly it has gotten. In September of this year, his approval among independents was at 39%, still not great. Since September, it has dropped from 37% to 27%. As I said, that's 8 points. That's a precipitous drop. Joe Biden's policies among those in the middle have also dropped, across the course of time. Only 24% of independents approve of the way he's handling the economy. 27% say that they approve of the way his job performance. 28% say they approve of his moves in foreign policy. 31% say they support his managing of the war with Ukraine, or the U.S.'s contributions to that. And 35% say that they approve of his health care policies. There's nothing there that's above water. So with less than a year to go until the presidential election, Biden continues to receive tepid ratings from the American public, writes Gallup. His overall job approval rating is still at a personal low and historically dangerous territory for an incumbent seeking re-election. Overall, the polls found Biden's approval rating among Americans matched record lows. So, in August of this year, let's go August of this year, his approval ratings, his overall approval ratings were at 42%. Now they're at 37%. Wow. I mean, it's dropping like a stone. And a lot of it has to do, I would say, with what's going on with the economy. It's the economy. It's the economy. It's the economy, stupid. Ground beef cost $5.23 a pound, up from $3.89 in January of 2020. Coffee is up $2 a pound. Fruits and vegetables are about 14% higher. Electric bills spiked 25% since January of 2020. Natural gas up 29%. Car insurance up 33%. Hotel prices up 15%. Grocery and electricity prices both up 25%. Used car prices have climbed 35%. Auto insurance is up 33%. Rent is up 20%. I mean, when you go on and on and on and looking at this, it's likely the economy that's causing the biggest concern among people who consider themselves to be independents. This does not bode well for Joe Biden. This does bode well for Donald Trump, who is expected to be the nominee. I mean, I don't want to, say it's fait accompli, but I mean, come on. He's like 50 points ahead in national polls of any other Republican running for the office. It's DeSantis and Haley neck and neck after that. Some of the others have fallen off so badly. I mean, I read today where Chris Christie has fallen off so badly that he may not even qualify for the next Republican debate, a Republican debate that Trump will not be attending. I'm telling you, again, when you see these kinds of stories, if you're a Democrat, you are freaking out. I mean, especially if you're a Democrat who hates Donald Trump, this has got to be very concerning, which is why I keep saying, I don't know. I just can't believe they're going to stand by and let this guy become the nominee, because it's fallen apart in a big, big, big way. And he's playing hardball within his own party, he is. The Florida Democrat Party appears poised to limit the number of candidates in the 2024 presidential primary contest to just Joe Biden. They're not going to let anybody else compete against Biden in Florida. He faces primary challenges from Representative Dean Phillips and self-help author Marianne Williamson. Until recently, Robert F. Kennedy had also challenged President Biden for the president's Democrat nomination, but he decided to change and run as an independent. Under state law, each respective political party is in charge of deciding and submitting its own list of presidential candidates to the Florida Secretary of State to be placed on the presidential preference primary ballot. Parties must finalize and submit these candidates by November 30th. State law further states that if a party only submits one presidential candidate's name, the party primary contest is not even held. So there may not even be a Florida primary for the Democrats. A Florida Democrat Party spokesman told CNN the party decided on its candidates list to include only President Biden during their state party convention in October. They submitted that candidate list on November 1. And so, that's it. They may not even have to have a primary in the state of Florida. I mean, and I'm telling you, what does that mean? He arrives at the convention as the nominee. And it would be then and only then if they decided to do the old convention switcheroo, which is a rare thing, but I really believe that's probably what's going to happen. They'll come up with another plan if things continue to devolve the way they are devolving for Joe Biden so far. Over in the House and the Senate, this story from the Epoch Times, twice as many Democrats than Republicans are not seeking re-election. In other words, there are a lot more Democrats who've decided they're hanging it up than there are Republicans in the 2024 congressional and Senate cycles. Remember, all members of the House are up for re-election. 1/3 of the Senate is up for re-election. By the way, the way it falls in the Senate, there are a lot more Democrats who have to run for re-election than there are Republicans. Nearly 40 congressional lawmakers aren't seeking re-election in 2024, and most of them are Democrats. 21 House Democrats are opting out of another term, compared to 11 Republicans. On the Senate side, 6 senators, 4 Democrat and 2 Republicans, said they're leaving public office, and 1 has opted to pursue a state governorship. In comparison to the 38 lawmakers departing Congress so far this cycle, only 24 lawmakers retired before the 2022 election. 27 had done that before, so a lot of people are deciding to hang it up, It appears that, when you look at the way things are right now, a lot of incumbents are running. Now, you may not like the fact that incumbents are running, but incumbents usually have a better chance of winning re-election than somebody who's trying to challenge an incumbent. And so that means if Democrats are leaving, it's an open seat, and anything could happen. So when you lose your incumbent, you are running a greater risk that somebody from the other party will win that election and therefore change the power, the basis of power. Now, I think in the Senate, the way, and it's just my first blush impression, I'll be doing a deeper dive into this as we get closer, but it seems to me that it looks like Republicans have a fairly good chance of taking the Senate next year. In the House, it's close, man. I mean, it's so close. It got closer today with the expulsion of George Santos, a Republican, who might be replaced by a Democrat. There's a chance of it. We'll see how that goes. But one way or the other, with more Democrats up for deciding that they're not going to run for re-election, it would seem that you have a better chance. But I'm telling you, in the House, it's really tight. It could still go either way. But I'm feeling, at least initially, somewhat encouraged by what I see over in the Senate. It is 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. Have you ever thought about why we invest in the stock market? Well, you often hear because we want to protect ourselves from inflation. Well, what is inflation? It's prices going up. Who's raising prices? Companies. What do you own when you own stocks? You own the companies raising prices, so it helps protect us from that. The other thing is this. Think about the most successful people you know. They're typically business owners. And you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. Now, if we think about the stock market, a lot of people worry about, well, what if the stock market drops and it never comes back? Well, this is another thing that I like to explain to people. If the stock market goes down and it never comes back, what does that mean? That means that earnings went down and they never came back up again. So earnings went down. If earnings go down, what else goes down? Taxes go down. If taxes go away, what else goes away? The government goes away. If the government goes away, the FDIC goes away. So think about it. Everything is built on the stock market. That's why I don't ever worry about the stock market going down. Everybody has the same goal in mind when stocks go down. Get it to come back up because we got to get earnings to come back up. Now, you have two things at your control to get earnings to come back up. One is sales. We can change what we're selling or sell more of whatever we have if we can. And if we can't do that, we can reduce our expenses. And that's exactly what companies do. You'll notice that they lay off people when things get bad, and hence that is why the stock market has recovered from every downturn throughout all of history. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
A ceasefire update in the Israel-Hamas war, crime at a Tennessee church, plus a major university investigating after a dead animal that represents the mascot of the opponent in this week's championship game was found dead near campus. That and more for Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 57 minutes now past the hour. Let's take a look at the markets, if we could, and see how things are doing. It's another record day for the Dow today in 2023, at least. The Dow was up 294 points. The S&P was up, a record high for them as well, up 26 points. The NASDAQ up 78. So all screens are vibrantly green. Gold, by the way, is up $33. Oil is down slightly. A barrel of oil now it would cost you about $74 a barrel. They ought to fill up the Strategic Petroleum Reserve for very long with oil being down as low as it is. I hope they're doing that. Now let's see what else we can learn about the economy and how your money by talking to Ty Draper over at Beacon Capital Management. Ty, you're up.
Hey, Brian, a great day in the markets today, but a new report shows that many American workers may be missing out. A CNBC survey shows that over 40% of workers are not contributing to their 401k or employer-sponsored plan. And experts warn to avoid the three common mistakes. Number one, not contributing up to the employer match. The employer match could mean up to 6% of quote-unquote free money, or withdrawing or loaning out funds, which limits the earnings potential of compound interest. And number three, thinking short-term only. By consistently contributing in good and bad markets, investors will reap the benefit of dollar-cost averaging and when markets go up.
All right, Ty, thank you very much. Learn more about all the things they can do for you at Beacon Capital Management by looking at their website, askbeaconnow.com. It's 59 minutes past the hour at 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.401, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 59 degrees right now, cloudy, little rainy in Nashville. Got some rain in the forecast this weekend. We'll tell you when and where, and a full weather forecast and a traffic report coming up in 5 minutes. In the Israel-Hamas war, the temporary ceasefire between those two has come to a close, with both sides once again ramping up the fighting inside Gaza and blaming one another for the end of the ceasefire. Karen Travers has the latest from the Biden administration.
The White House says Hamas is to blame for the pause in fighting ending because they failed to produce a list of additional hostages they would release. National Security spokesman John Kirby.
The President and the entire national security team will continue to remain deeply engaged on this as we continue to want to see more hostages released and more aid getting in.
Kirby added that with the pause in fighting over, aid is no longer moving into Gaza.
The people who suffer the most because of that are the people of Gaza, the Palestinian people.
And today, a shocking report came from the New York Times claiming that Israel knew about Hamas's plan for a terror attack prior to October 7th and that they had intelligence but dismissed it. Crime at a Tennessee church. Channel 4 says that a marijuana grow operation was discovered at a building that was originally a Methodist church until being bought out and turned into a new place of worship. A weeks-long investigation was launched initially due to the smell coming from the church. Stewart County sheriffs looked at the property's electric bill. They found that it came out to $3,000 a month. Upon executing the search warrant, deputies found around 2,000 plants, both dried and live. One person is in custody. More arrests are expected to be made. And a major university now investigating after a dead animal that represents the mascot of the opponent in this week's championship game was found dead near campus. Brian Clark has details.
A dead cow was found Friday morning on the front lawn of a fraternity house near Oklahoma State University. It was a longhorn cow. Its stomach was cut open and an expletive was carved into its side. This happened a little more than a day before the Oklahoma State football team plays the University of Texas Longhorns in the Big 12 championship game. Oklahoma State University said it and Stillwater police are investigating and that it is appalled at the disturbing display of animal cruelty.
And right now, back in the Volunteer State, News 2 did a report based off of data from Streetlight. They're looking at walking habits amongst Americans. The study showed that Americans are walking less than they did in 2019, and that Middle Tennessee is no exception. The number of annual average daily walking trips per 1,000 people in Nashville metro area, which includes Davidson County, Murfreesboro, and Franklin, declined by around 45% from 2019 to 2022. And they define a walking trip by any trip taken by foot that's more than 250 meters from start to finish. Tennessee was among the three states with the least amount of people walking. Last year, Tennessee ranked at the very bottom, followed by Alabama and Arkansas. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Good afternoon, everybody. 8 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for hour number 2 of The Drive. We're going to get you home safely and give you some information to think about all the way. And I know you can do both. You're multitaskers, aren't you? You can drive and absorb information.
Both hands on the wheel.
That's right. That's right. We call this show The Drive because it happens during what is known as drive time, the time of day when people are getting in their cars and they're trying to get from work to home or from school for home and those kind of things. And there are a lot of people on the highways, And as you know, you can, let's just say the traffic in this town sucks. It does. It's just miserable. It's horrible. And so one of the things I try to do is provide you information and maybe, something to distract you from the really tragic commute that you have to go through. And that's part of our goal each day. But really, wouldn't you like to have it be a little better? Wouldn't you like to know that some of the commuter problems could be solved so that perhaps your trip home would not be such an arduous ordeal? I think most of us would, right? And in the city of Nashville, then when I say city, I mean Davidson County, they are now beginning to have conversations about a 10-year action plan for traffic and transportation improvement in Nashville's urban core. Now, there have been 2 years of study and engagement. You've already paid for the study and the engagement, and they have a plan that's in draft form, and they plan to release the final version in early 2024, so early next year. And right now they're taking public feedback on their plan or their suggestions or their ideas. The report says that car and bus trips downtown are, quote, wildly unpredictable, thanks to construction, special events, and congestion. 20% of people surveyed for the study said they prefer to drive downtown. I would think that it'd be higher than that. A lot of people want to have their own car downtown. 80% of commuters in the Nashville area drive alone. So there's some interesting statistics in all of that. But you need to get ready. You need to be aware that the city of Nashville and Nashville's new mayor, Freddie O'Connor, are about to come to you, and you better hold on to your wallets. They're going to ask you for more money to implement some of these ideas. And there's a nice article in the Tennessean. I'll have to give them credit. It sort of lays out some of the things that are in this 10-year action plan, some of the ideas and information to be gleaned from the plan, and I appreciate that. However, I also look at it and I say, man, this ain't going to work. This is going to be a real problem, and it's going to be costly. Whatever they do, they're going to spend a ton of money, and I don't think it's going to make that much difference. Maybe some slight improvements in some areas, but I don't think it's going to make a whole lot of difference. Let me just go through some of the things that catch my eye. And remember, we've been through this before. I mean, they tried to come up with a transit plan that included all kinds of wild ideas like building a tunnel under Nashville. Can you imagine the cost of digging a tunnel through the granite and the rock in this area? It would have been outrageous. But they were looking at all kinds of different things that they wanted to do, and it failed miserably because people said, we're not paying for that. That's ridiculous. And you know what? The real reason that I think that it was destined to fail is that transportation is not a Davidson County issue. I mean, Davidson County's a part of it, sure. It's really a regional issue. You have to address the regional needs for transportation if you're going to solve this problem in a big way. I mean, because what happens? Well, you got people all the way down in Murray County. You got people all the way out here in Wilson County. You got people, all over the area around Nashville are trying to get to work downtown. That's really what it is. And then it's complicated by the fact that, downtown Nashville is also a place where a lot of people come to play, and there's a lot of playing going on. And so the people are trying to get to work and the people are trying to play. It's nightmare. And that's the problem. So, I want to just go through some of these things. And first thing that catches my eye in this article in the Tennessean is this. You ready? Listen to this paragraph and hold on to your wallets. For the 10-year timeline to stick, Nashville will have to come up with a dedicated source of funding for transit improvements, according to the report. Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connor was recently advised to consider holding a November of 24 voter referendum on a tax increase. Excuse me, did you hear that? I said tax increase that would dedicate revenue to a transit project. Now, he's not said how he falls on this, but without money, I think they find that it won't go anywhere. Look, I hope that you have a chance to say that you don't want to spend money on something that may not work. And if past his prologue, I don't think this thing has got a chance of passing. If you have to go to the voters and ask them, hey, would you like to have your taxes increased? I think I know the answer to that question. Get ready, though, because you're going to be asked to pony up some cash if you live in Davidson County. All right? All right. So that's the first thing you need to know. Let me just see. There's a couple of things here about changing 2nd Avenue into a two-way street over 3 segments with better flow, balance the flow of traffic. These are easily done. You could do that tomorrow. Interstate would need to be rebuilt or rearranged to make a switch come to fruition. That could be expensive. A portion of 3rd Avenue would convert into a one-way northbound, with 4th Avenue becoming one-way southbound. While the draft plan shows 7th Avenue becoming a one-way southbound street, that might be scrapped, as 6th Avenue already accommodates one-way southbound traffic. Changing pedestrian signals to give people a head start in crossing the street and adding curb bulbs near the intersection for additional pedestrian space would improve the safety of downtown's most vulnerable travelers, the people who are on foot. Listen to this, though. If you're in a car, what is one of the greatest things that they've ever come up with when it comes to moving about in your car? Ride on red, baby. I mean, who of us doesn't love ride on red? We all love it. If we're in a car, we love to go ride on red. Saves you a lot of time sitting there just for no apparent reason. When there's an opportunity to go, you should be able to go. Cutting down or eliminating the ability of drivers to turn right on red can also improve safety for those crossing the streets. You know how you increase safety for people crossing the streets? Have the pedestrians pay attention. I mean, we have an obligation in our cars to not, wantonly run over pedestrians. We don't want to do that, of course. But, I mean, pedestrians, a lot of times, and as I speak as someone, and I speak with a great deal of experience because I am someone who actually was the pedestrian in a car pedestrian accident. It was me versus a truck, and me didn't win. So, I mean, I understand. And you know what? It was my fault. And I would say that in many of these cases, people step off on a curb without ever looking, and the next thing you know, you have a car pedestrian accident. So, I mean, it really isn't it as much on the pedestrians as it is on the car people. Don't get rid of right on red. Please don't do that. Okay, so that's that. Streamlining transit. How many times have we said, well, we just need to, we've got buses, and, that's the solution. We need more buses and a reorganized bus system. Okay, maybe. But I don't know. I keep saying, I want to say this, and I say it every time we talk about buses and things they're going to do. I see a lot of buses moving around the city. And every time I look, I see how many people are on that bus. I see these big double hinged buses. They're these massive buses that are taking up traffic and clogging our roads, and there's maybe 3 people on them. I mean, am I wrong? I'm not wrong.
I've seen the same thing.
Yeah,
yep.
I'm not wrong about this. So why do you think buses are the solution? I don't think they are. They talking about shorter bus lane sections and queue jump lanes. Listen to this line. That would give transit priority beyond the loop. They're trying to set up a big loop of buses so that, you sort of get on a bus and every 2 minutes a bus arrives. Okay, good luck with that. In Nashville's traffic as it is now, I don't know that you can, but you can if you give transit priority over cars, and that's what they will do, which means that if you're in a car, your drive is going to suck even more than it does now because the buses are going to have priority. And then we get into this. 2/3 of those surveyed for the Connect Downtown study said they didn't feel safe biking downtown. The action plan would create mobility lanes to be used for e-bikes, bikes, scooters, and more, creating a complete network from today's piecemeal obstacle course of bike lanes. Without a network, what we have now, it's all disjointed, and we're making people have a lot of choices that aren't the fastest possible choices with mobility. Do not. I beg you. This is my input. See, I'm giving my input, my feedback here, because I have a microphone. I have a place to do that. Do not build more bike lanes. So, everybody, when you say, oh, let's build a bike lane, everybody says, oh, that sounds like fun. Let's have bike lane. Who bikes to work? 0.0001% of commuters bike to work. And yet we're going to take away valuable traffic space for the 10 or 12 people who want to ride their bikes to work. I'm going to hear from the bike people, and I don't care. You're a menace to society, and I don't want to hear anything about it. Stay out of my way. I hate bikes on the highway. God, I hate it so much. But I mean, honestly, don't take away traffic lanes to give us more bike lanes when really, honestly, it's a very small, oh, they're vocal and oh, yeah, they're organized. And yeah, they're the rudest people you ever ran into in your world. I hate bikers. I hate not motorcycle bikers. I'm talking about bicycle bikers. They're like, we own the highway. We're bikes and you can't touch us. And I'm saying, okay, that's fine. But I tell you what you're going to do. If you're going to increase bike lanes, then every biker who gets on the street needs to have a license plate on their bike. So when they violate the law, the license plate reader or somebody can catch them. I don't know. But they need to be held accountable for their bad behavior. Do not give up traffic lanes for more bike lanes. Send your cars and letters to Chris Webber, Karen. No. I'm serious. I mean, that's just, and I think we've already decided e-bikes are a menace. Well, I don't know that e-bikes are a menace. I actually own an e-bike, but the little scooters are, and they're dangerous. And people go to the hospital every day in Nashville because of some scooter accident. I don't know why we would want to encourage that any more than we have already. So there's that. There's a lot more that is in this report, and I'm going to tell you that it's going to be a major topic of conversation next year. And they're going to ask you for more money, and they're going to come, and there's going to be a referendum, no doubt. And Fast Freddie O'Connell is going to ask you to pony up some money for 10 years to try to solve a problem. And if this is their answer, if this is what they've come up with, I don't think it significantly changes things. To change traffic problems in this area, it has to be a regional approach. I'm going to say it again. To have a real impact on traffic in this area, it must be a regional approach. I'm very big on rail. I wish we had more rail coming in and out of Nashville. Reliable rail is a viable solution for people who are commuting in and out. And a lot of people would take the rail if there were more of it. That's something really needs to be considered. I love what the governor's doing by adding lanes and capacity and these so-called hot lanes that I think are going to be fantastic when they finally get put into place. But we really have got to think in a different way, and we have to think in a larger way. And the problem will not be solved by Davidson County in isolation trying to solve the problems inside Davidson County. You can make some modest improvements. I'll grant you that. But I don't think you're really going to solve the problem until you approach it from a regional perspective. 22 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Busy bee. When you need heat or cold AC, right now, you'd be focused on the heat. And if your unit goes out and you don't have any heat in your house and it's getting cold at night, once you call the people I would call, the folks at Busy Bee HVAC and Plumbing, 615-775-7833. Listen, they will come out to your house and they will buzz over and get to your hive and they'll fix whatever's ailing your system. The way you avoid having problems, though, with your air conditioning and your heating and your plumbing systems is to make sure you do preventative maintenance. Just a little bit of work every year can save you and extend the life of your systems. And you can become a member of the Beehive Club for as little as $99. You'll get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges 24/7 and 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833, online at busybehvac.com.
We really are passionate about our state. It's so beautiful, and we just want people and all Tennesseans to help us keep it that way. We really want to make sure that, our beauty, and from, west to east to even middle Tennessee, we want to make sure it's nice and clean for everyone to enjoy. I like to get people to volunteer and to get out there and keep our world clean, man. Litter's disgusting. No one likes it.
That's right. Yeah, if you ask my wife, I've always said, keep Tennessee beautiful. That's kind of been, I think I found a T-shirt or something a long time ago.
It's that marketing.
Yeah.
Really good job.
It's like,
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no sense in throwing your trash out the window or when you're hunting or fishing, leaving the trash there on the bank or whatever. It's not worth it.
Currently, there are 88 million pieces of litter on Tennessee roadways at any given time in this state.
Wow.
And TDOT currently spends $23 million on picking up the litter, educating about the litter.
The Nobody Trashes Tennessee campaign, there's some great videos out there. And I was watching the litter lessons and the show and get to know the Red Plastic Cup. Tell us a bit about the campaign and some of those characters. That's pretty neat.
So Red Plastic Cup, he thinks he's a movie star.
Uh-huh.
He thinks, he's just the greatest thing ever. So he started off with a talk show, and then he got a movie. And in our movie, he got, more characters, and we had experts, water quality expert was Sal, the smallmouth bass.
Yeah.
And his bodyguard is Trash Watch. And if, we can go into Trash Watch a little bit too, but love Trash Watch.
That temporary pause in fighting, it's over now in Gaza. Crime in Tennessee, and we'll also have today's money news. Those stories coming up 30 minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock right here. Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
26 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock, and I don't want to hear anything from all you biking people up there. I mean, honestly, you don't have radios. You're not listening to me anyway.
Wow.
Yeah. Did you hear about this story? Mac Moria, did you hear about this story? I found it on Channel 4's website. A massive marijuana grow operation found inside a Tennessee church.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, investigation slowed by possible booby traps that were placed there to keep law enforcement from getting into their grow operation. I mean, that's something. A massive marijuana grow operation found inside a Tennessee church in Stewart's County by the Stewart's County Sheriff's Office. Search warrant was taken out against the church on Highway 46 in Indian Mound by the Sheriff's Office and the 23rd Judicial Drug Task Force. It was an investigation launched a few weeks ago, and neighbors complained about a smell coming from the church. Yeah. If you've ever been on a big marijuana bust, and I have as a reporter gone out on big bust, and bales and bales of marijuana have a very distinct odor. There's no doubt about that. And then, of course, maybe there were some other smells. I don't know. We'll see. But one way or the other, they complained. So the sheriff's office began looking at the electric bill, $3,000 a month. Began looking at the water bill, which was higher than normal. And they suspected what was going on there. And so they launched their investigation and conducted interviews of people who were seen coming and going from the church. And they found out that, hemp was being grown in the church. They claimed that hemp was being grown, not marijuana.
They're just making rope and whatnot.
Yeah, we're just making rope here. That's all we're doing. Rope. We're just making rope. Upon executing the search warrant, deputies found about 2,000 plants, dried and live. Sheriff Frankie Gray said this is not a fly-by-night operation. The sheriff's office shut down the largest marijuana grow in county history. One person in custody, more arrests are expected. This brings new meaning, of course, since it's in a church. By the way, originally a Methodist church, but then turned into a different kind of place of worship, apparently. Brings new meaning to the term high church, I guess. I don't know. I'm sorry. There's one. But no, I mean, in the picture, you ought to see the picture that comes with this story. It's like they laid all the plants out in the back of the church and took a picture of it. It looks like a gigantic field of pot that they have pulled out. And, of course, now it'll be destroyed. And there'll be some people, I have a feeling, doing a little time in the Gray Bar Hotel.
I would have got away with it if it weren't for those pesky kids.
Yeah, if those pesky kids who's noticed a smell, a distinct smell coming from the church.
That's not grape juice and crackers. What's that?
Pretty good cover, I guess, if you're going to try to hide your grow operation.
Church and turn it into a grow operation. Well, it's a heck of a deal.
At least.
Yeah. 30 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk.
4:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 60 degrees in Nashville. Expecting a wet weekend. We'll tell you all about it. Full weather forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. An Israel-Hamas war, a setback in the response to the crisis in Gaza, described by officials in Washington. Now that fighting has resumed, aid trucks are no longer getting into Gaza. National Security Council official John Kirby said at his briefing today.
What I can tell you is that the president and the entire national security team will continue to remain deeply engaged on this as we continue to want to see more hostages released and more aid getting in.
And Kirby made it clear that it is because of Hamas that the pause in fighting has ended. Explosions were heard in Gaza minutes after the truce ended. Crime in the Volunteer State. Channel 4 says that a man connected to a homicide led officials on a police chase. This happened last night. It ended in the arrest of 32-year-old DeMarco Locust, who was charged with the shooting of 26-year-old Razai Dashti. According to a witness at the scene that day, Dashti was involved in an ongoing fight over narcotics. He died after being taken to Vanderbilt Medical. Now over to the Money News. Daria Albinger walks us through Wall Street today.
Stocks end the week broadly higher as the market comes off its best month in more than a year. The Dow soared 295 points, and Nasdaq added 79 for the session, and the S&P closed up 27. Industrials were among the day's winners. Construction equipment maker Caterpillar rose 2.5%. Railroad Union Pacific was up 3%. Investors start December on track to close out the year with solid gains. The S&P is up almost 20%. The Nasdaq up 36% for the year. The rally coming on growing expectations among investors that the Federal Reserve could cut interest rates as soon as early next year. But Fed Chair Jerome Powell tempered that enthusiasm just a bit. In a speech in Atlanta, he said it's too soon to speculate on interest rates. He says inflation is still a ways from the Fed's 2% target rate. Construction spending continues to rise. It topped analysts' forecasts for growth.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Say, are you faring okay in this rough and tumble market that we're in? The experts at Beacon Capital Management understand it can be a little scary. And here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are to make sure that you can make any mid-course corrections that might be needed so that you what? So you can retire comfortably. Have you thought about that? Don't leave it to chance. Wouldn't it be great to have a set of fresh eyes look over what you're doing to make sure you have the right plan? Listen, Beacon can provide that reassurance. It starts with a simple phone call to this number, 615-488-9303. Now, get started today by calling that number, and at the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing that you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. You have nothing to lose in this process except for the worry. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. Again, the number, write it down, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away, and you can learn more at askbeaconnow.com. "37 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair on this first day of December, 24 shopping days till Christmas. You get busy. Everybody's expecting a little something under the tree. Got to stuff some stockings. Let's get after it. I love this part of the week. It's Friday, and at about this time, in 4 o'clock hour, and about this time in the 5 o'clock hour, we do a little thing we like to call Fone Ur FARB Friday. That's right. We want to know what's on your beady little minds today. 615-737-9986. No, they're not really beady. We just say that in jest. We want you to call and climb up on our 100,000-watt soapbox and express yourself about whatever it is that's bugging you. Maybe you got a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you got a burr under your saddle. Maybe you have a bug in a place I hope you never, ever really do have a bug. But one way or the other, we want you to express yourself, and this is the time, within boundaries, because it is a family show, and we don't want to have to, put you on super secret probation. So, you have to behave yourself. But otherwise, anything. Maybe you have a question. Maybe you want to try to stump the chump. It doesn't matter. 615-737-9986. I got a couple people calling in. I got a lot of phone lines open. This is your opportunity. We love first-time callers, by the way. You can't just lurk out there forever without participating. So get busy. 615-737-9986. And I think we're ready to go with our first caller. Let's check in with Rodney in Shelbyville. Uh-oh, here it comes. It's about bicycles. Hi, Rodney. What's up?
Hey, Brian. How you doing this evening?
Doing really well.
Well, you know, I think you had the beginning of a very good idea there. I actually, the minute you said put license plates on them, yes, license plates, and require them to register and pay a registration fee since they're using the roads that are, you know, gas taxes pay for. And
That's
on top
exactly
of that,
right. Yep.
And on top of that, shouldn't they also be required to have a bicycle driver's license to show they're competent to operate it? You do have to with a motorcycle.
I know, honestly. I mean, they're talking about scooters and e-bikes. I mean, listen, I have an e-bike, and I used it down when I had land in Florida, and I would use it to run along the beach and run errands, and I loved it. It was fun, and I brought it north to Nashville when I got rid of my property down in Florida, and I'm telling you, that thing runs 35, 40 miles an hour. That's like a small motorcycle. So, you know, maybe we need to have some registration on these things. So, you know, that's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, thank you for that. I'll send my recommendations on to the new mayor. How about Scott and Dixon also wants to talk about the traffic thing that I was railing on a little while ago. Hey, Scott, you're up with Brian on the drive. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian, let's talk about the traffic and how to ease it up. What I see a lot is because I travel throughout Middle Tennessee all day long on a dedicated route that I have. Every time a police officer or state trooper has someone pulled over for, let's say, a speeding ticket, it holds traffic up for anywhere from, let's say, 30 minutes to hours, most especially when they are getting pulled over during rush hour.
Right.
Everyone is scared to death to drive by a cop. Terrified. So everybody has to come to a complete stop and turn their head as far as they can to the left so the cop doesn't see who it is. No one in this town knows what a sun visor is used for, has no clue what to do when the sun is in their face. There are several places that billboards could be put up to even block the sun on certain routes. Elm Hill Pike in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the morning, you're driving dead into the east, right into the sun. In the evenings, you're driving dead in the sun, going west.
Right. Well, listen, I think there are a lot of things that drivers could do to be better drivers. But, I mean, ultimately, it's an issue of capacity, is it not? I mean, and what they're trying to do, honestly, in Nashville is they're trying to get people to not drive their cars into Nashville. They hate cars. They're making parking really ridiculously expensive. They're doing everything they can. It's a blue city, and people, Democrats, hate the internal combustion engine, and they don't really want our cars there. But you know what? That's how, if you live in, down south or out west or east or north of the town, and you got to drive 30 miles from your home to get to work, you've got to take your car. There are no other options in most of these situations. So, they want to do away with the car. They want to make it so miserable to drive a car into Nashville that you won't do that anymore. That's what they want. Thank you for the call, Scott. Appreciate it. Let's go to Alan in Gallatin. Alan, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Alan?
Hey, Brian. Thanks for taking the call. I just have a message. Is there a way to host a dog fund or animal raising like we do for the shelters and things like that for the animal shelters around that need money and don't get a lot of federal aid?
Listen, that's something near and dear to my heart. I'll be honest with you. Yeah. Taking care of animals. I haven't thought about that. We do one a year, and we dedicate a whole day to it. But there ought to be something we can do to make sure that these animal shelters, which do a lot of good work in the community, in many cases. To help them out a little bit. I don't know. Let me ponder on that, Alan. I think it's a noble thought. I really do. Let me give it some thought and see if there's something we might be able to do. And if you have an idea, get a hold of me. Let me know. Ryan in Ashland City. Ryan, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Ryan? What's on your mind?
Good afternoon there, sir. I've been seeing an ad on YouTube that says that if you do not have Medicaid or Medicare, the government has $5,000 to $6,400 worth of subsidies that you can receive to use on everyday things. I guess my first question is have you heard about it, and is it legit? And my second one would be why are we handing out more money if that is the case, just to get further down the rabbit hole?
I have not seen that. It has not crossed my path. But it wouldn't surprise me that it would be something that the Biden administration do, because they love to give money away, don't they? Take it from one group and give it to the others. Wealth distribution. But I'll look around, see if I can find something. I have not seen those things, and I would say initially, be very careful. Make sure you double check all this stuff. That's not some kind of scam. Let's see, Russ in Ashland City. Hello, Russ. You're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Russ?
Hey, Brian, talk about 2024 election. Just something I've been wanting to bring up and think about. We thought in 2020 we had no problem. Trump would win it. We lost it. 2022, we thought it was going to be a run on both the House and Senate. We barely made the House.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're looking good, but, man, we have got to be careful and make sure we don't get so sure of ourselves that we lose it again. I mean, it's something I've thought about. We really thought we were going to do it in 2022.
Right.
We just barely made it.
Yeah, you know what? The polls have been wrong. One thing I read the other day, though, and I'd forgotten about this, is that when you talk about polls with Trump, he traditionally he outperforms the polls generally. Generally across the board, he does better in reality than the polls suggest that he will do. Look, we talk about polls, and polls are general election numbers, and you know what? Popular vote doesn't mean anything. It's all the Electoral College game. There are some states where, the Electoral College math is so important, they become very, very important, the so-called swing states. The thing that catches my attention about some of the polling data right now is that independents, number one, are not at all enamored with Joe Biden. And the other thing that I see is that I think the last poll I saw, 5 out of 6 swing states, Trump was leading in places where he's never led before in polls like this. I mean, there's something afoot. Now, is it early? Yeah. Could things change? Absolutely. Is there going to be a big fight over the issue of abortion? And are Democrats going to try to use that against Republicans in some ways in some of these swing states? You bet they will. So, things will tighten as we get to the elections. But, I mean, it's remarkable to see an incumbent doing this badly. And it's remarkable to see Trump doing better in some of these polls than he has ever done in the process before. So there's something going on there. I just, it is a snapshot in time, not a projection of what will happen. All right, let's see. Carl in Nashville. Carl, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say?
Well, hey there, Brian in Nashville. I'm on the way home to the borough, and I wanted to comment on the debate last night. Gavin Newsom is who I'm targeting. Mm-hmm. He basically is smarmy. He can be a nice guy, I'm sure, but he lies by omission. And I wanted to bring up the murder rate. How he kept talking about the red states have more murders and then Florida's ratio, this and that. So I actually looked up just murders for 2022, and Florida. Tennessee has more than 600 murders for 2022. Florida but they had like 300 and maybe 80 or 84, something like that. Here is California. When you just look at the raw numbers, they were right a few, like 2190, almost 2,200 murders California had. And so what I'm saying is California is a lot more dangerous to live in than Florida. Yeah. That's why people are leaving.
Yeah, I think you're
So,
right.
But you're doing a great job. I'm glad you're here.
Well, thank you very much, Carl. I appreciate that, and thank you for that assessment. I appreciate you doing that as well. How about Gene in Morrison? Gene, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say?
Hi, Brian. How are you?
I'm well. What's up?
We know the Biden administration is opening the borders to create a new voter bloc.
Right.
But I think they're shooting themselves and America in the foot because, like we see with Omar Ilhan and Rashida Tlaib, they're letting in a voter base that will not vote for them and is ultimately anti-American.
Yeah, you know what? One of the things that's interesting is they I think the Democrats believe that people who are brought into this country and given, ultimately some kind of pathway to citizenship if they have their way, they think that they'll be beholden to them. But if you look at Hispanic voters are walking away from Democrat policies, at least this election cycle, in big numbers. In other words, they remember they were doing very well economically during the Trump years, and they don't feel like they're doing very well right now. And a lot of black voters, 22% black support for Donald Trump right now. That's a really high number when you consider that, most Republicans get maybe 1 or 2% black vote over the course of most elections. So, yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think that they might be in for a rude awakening, but I still don't think this is the way to do it. I don't think that you subvert the laws of our nation and make our nation less secure for political purposes. That ought not be what you do. And I've talked about it so often. I feel like I'm sort of talking till I'm blue in the face. Oh, well, anyway, thank you so much for the calls. Hey, we had a great response. We didn't get to everybody, but I'll tell you this. If you call back in the 5 o'clock hour, about 5:35 or so, we'll do another round of this. Another round of Fone Ur FARB Friday, 51 past the hour now.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. Have you ever thought about why we invest in the stock market? Well, you often hear because we want to protect ourselves from inflation. Well, what is inflation? It's prices going up. Who's raising prices? Companies. What do you own when you own stocks? You own the companies raising prices, so it helps protect us from that. The other thing is this. Think about the most successful people you know. They're typically business owners. And you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. Now, if we think about the stock market, a lot of people worry about, well, what if the stock market drops and it never comes back? Well, this is another thing that I like to explain to people. If the stock market goes down and it never comes back, what does that mean? That means that earnings went down and they never came back up again. So earnings went down. If earnings go down, what else goes down? Taxes go down. If taxes go away, what else goes away? The government goes away. If the government goes away, the FDIC goes away. So think about it. Everything is built on the stock market. That's why I don't ever worry about the stock market going down. Everybody has the same goal in mind when stocks go down. Get it to come back up because we got to get earnings to come back up. Now, you have two things at your control to get earnings to come back up. One is sales. We can change what we're selling or sell more of whatever we have if we can. And if we can't do that, we can reduce our expenses. And that's exactly what companies do. You'll notice that they lay off people when things get bad, and hence that is why the stock market has recovered from every downturn throughout all of history. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
George Santos out as a member of the House of Representatives, a guilty plea in a big crime case in Wisconsin, a drug bust here in Nashville, and a manhunt right now active in Los Angeles. Those stories more. 5 o'clock, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, coming up in the next hour, we're going to talk about Sandra Day O'Connor's passing from the scene. And Mac Maury, I hope that you'll hang around because there's a story that connects Sandra Day O'Connor to a legend of the NFL that you may or may not have heard.
Okay.
And I'm going to share that story and a personal observation about Sandra Day O'Connor, my memory of her, coming up on the next hour of The Drive. It is 58 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 60 degrees. We'll tell you what the weekend weather forecast looks like. Latest traffic report, weather forecast on the way, 5 minutes. New York Republican Representative George Santos is out of his role in the House of Representatives today. Lawmakers believing Santos' documented history of fraud disqualified him from service, ultimately leading to the 311 to 114 vote to expel him. Liz Landers has more of the criminal charges Santos now faces.
This fall, the Department of Justice brought 23 felony charges against Santos for alleged crimes like wire fraud and identity theft. But a 50-page House Ethics Committee report released last month revealed even more damning details. Investigators claim he used campaign funds for his own personal enrichment, including rent, designer clothes, and Botox.
And Santos' removal slims that Republican majority in the House now to just 8 members. And in Wisconsin, a judge signed off on a man's guilty plea for firebombing the office of an anti-abortion group. Brian Clark.
Less than a week after the leak of the draft Supreme Court opinion overturning Roe versus Wade, here a Hindu wrote Chowdhury threw 2 Molotov cocktails through the window of an anti-abortion group's office in Madison, Wisconsin. One of the 2 ignited and started a fire. There was nobody in the office at the time and nobody was hurt. Last month, Roe Chowdhury pleaded guilty to a federal charge of damaging property with explosives. A federal judge approved that plea on Friday. Roe Chowdhury faces up to 20 years in prison at his February sentencing, but prosecutors are recommending less since he accepted responsibility.
Some crime right now in Tennessee. News 2 reports that a couple was arrested yesterday following a drug bust at a Royal Inn. This is in East Nashville. Police ended up searching through 42-year-old Frank Atkerson's room. He barricaded himself inside of the bathroom. 36-year-old Tanisha Hill was occupying the other room. Officers found over 120 grams of marijuana, 5.5 grams of crack cocaine, and over 3 grams of powder cocaine, methamphetamine. They found Percocet pills, fentanyl pills. Multiple firearms were found as well. Atkinson's bond was set at $200,000. Hill's set at $130,000. And in California right now, an urgent investigation underway in Los Angeles where police say there is a serial killer on the loose preying on homeless who are asleep. Alex Stone reports from L.A.
Homeless here in L.A. are being told do not sleep alone tonight. There is a serial killer on the loose who has killed 3 homeless asleep on streets and in alleys. That killer walks up, shoots them, and then walks away. LAPD Chief Michael Moore.
A single individual approached each one and shot and killed each one.
A police task force is being organized to try to track down a shadowy figure of the killer seen in surveillance video. City representatives are trying to get the homeless to go into shelters.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It's 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, bringing you news and information on this, the first day of December. It's the last month of the year. I mean, we're about to put 2023 in the books. I There have been some great things that have happened, in my life in 2023. There have been some bad things that happened in 2023. I think I'm ready to put this one behind us. I'm ready to move on to 2024. But nonetheless, it is that time of year. And I just want to mention again, we're going to do this event over at Cedar Creek Marina at Scoreboard on the 7th of December. And that'll go from 4 to 8 p.m. And, come on by because it'll be free of charge. And we're going to talk about the year past and the year that we're about to head into, which is an election year. So I hope you'll do it. Get your details at 997WTN.com. It was very sad to hear about the passing of Sandra Day O'Connor. I watched Sandra Day O'Connor as a reporter on the High Court on many occasions. I had the opportunity to cover the High Court and to hear arguments before the High Court, and I had great admiration for Sandra Day O'Connor. She was, if you don't know, she was the first woman elected or appointed to the Supreme Court by Ronald Reagan, who broke the gender barrier. There had never been a female Supreme Court justice, associate justice rather, until Sandra Day O'Connor came along. And what was that, 80, I don't know, I can't remember the year, 81. Ronald Reagan, fulfilling a campaign pledge to break the male monopoly of the High Court, selected her to succeed retired Justice Potter Stewart. She ushered in a wave, according to the Wall Street Journal, of women making firsts in the early 1980s, along with America's first woman astronaut, Sally Ride, and the first woman on a major party presidential ticket, who was Geraldine Ferraro. Over the next 24 years, she served on the High Court. She became to wield the deciding vote, the so-called swing vote. In the Supreme Court, people don't know this, that the real power in the Supreme Court is not on the left or on the right. It's not even whether or not you're the Chief Justice or not. So your vote has more power if you're the swing vote, because you can really impact law. Sometimes you go left, sometimes you go right, and if you're thought as a swing justice, you then can have the real power on the High Court. Born March 26, 1930 in El Paso, Texas. She's a West Texan. And raised on her family's Arizona ranch, the Lazy Bee. She always considered herself a plain-spoken cowgirl rather than an intellectual theorist. She was an exemplary student, entering Stanford University at age 16. Wow. And continuing to Stanford Law School, graduating in 52, alongside a future Chief Justice by the name of William Rehnquist, who she briefly dated. Did you know that? Yeah, they dated when they were in school. And that reminds me of my story about Sandra Day O'Connor. I mean, obviously, everybody in town had a lot of respect for Sandra Day O'Connor. She was revered in legal circles and revered in that town as well as a real person of character. As a reporter, it's a big dog deal if you have information, if you can break a story about a retiring Supreme Court justice. Because, when you start to have Supreme Court justice, appointments, and they turn into big stories, the fact that there is a vacancy on the High Court is like, the first step in that story. And so I remember, that I'd seen it happen before where members of the Supreme Court had stepped down, and I knew about what time of year those decisions were generally made. And so as a reporter, I called everybody I could think of in my Rolodex, every single person that I could think of in my Rolodex to try to, say, hey, listen, if you hear anything about a Supreme Court justice, stepping down. We thought it was going to be William Rehnquist, who was really struggling with some health issues. And so I was asking people about Rehnquist. If you hear Rehnquist is going to step down, he was the Chief Justice at the time, then let me know. Give me a holler. And no matter day or night, whatever time, just call me on my cell phone number. And I called maybe 100 people in my spare time. And I was sitting in the parking lot of a Home Depot kind of place. And on my day off, I had worked a weekend, and so it was like Monday, as I recall. And I was making a run to the Home Depot to get some stuff for a little project I was working on at home, and my phone rang. And I picked it up, and the guy said, "Hey, Brian." I said, "Yeah." Remember how you told me if I heard anything about William Rehnquist stepping down to give you a call? I said, yeah, it's not Rehnquist. It's Sandra Day O'Connor. I said, really? And he said, are you sure? I said, yeah, we have somebody from our office that was over at the high court having breakfast this morning, and they picked up word of it early this morning. I said, thank you. So you don't want to go on the air with one source, right? In a story that big, you absolutely do not want to be hung out to dry by somebody who happens to hear something wrong. So you got to have at least a second or third confirmation. So I called into the Fox News Bureau from my car in the parking lot of the Home Depot and reported that I had heard that Sandra Day O'Connor had tendered her resignation. And the folks at the White House who heard the call, because we had a special sort of squawk box phone number that we called, they said, we'll get right on it. And while I was on the phone telling them, what I knew, they got back on and said, we've confirmed it. We have a second. The White House has confirmed they received the letter this morning. And I said, does anybody else know? And they said, no. I said, transfer me to the control room then. And from the parking lot of the Home Depot, I broke that story. And I had that story. I mean, I'm telling you, I was on the phone saying Sandra Day O'Connor has tendered her resignation. She will step down from the high court. The administration has received the letter, and you'll hear more about this throughout the day. And then I sat there for about 10 minutes, which on a story of that nature is an eternity. And nobody else touched the story.
Whew.
And now I'm starting to sweat bullets. Did I somehow get this wrong, or did we somehow? No, we were pretty sure. And by the time a few minutes passed, I had a third confirmation, and then a fourth confirmation that it was indeed true, and I was on target. And so, I felt very strongly about my reporting. And then a few minutes later, other news agencies around the town started to pick up the story and confirmed what we had learned as well. And so it was for me. I think I look back, it's my biggest scoop ever.
It's a big scoop, man.
It was a heck of a scoop. Yeah.
Nice.
I know. And it was just legwork, just shoe leather, just making calls and reaching out to people in advance and, of a time when I knew that these kind of decisions often were made. And so, there was that. Now, again, a tremendous jurist, and we could spend hours here going over some of the legal briefs, but there's a story in Washington about Sandra Day O'Connor, and you're going to love this, McMorrie. It has to do with a dinner called the Washington Press Dinner, and the Washington Press Club holds a big dinner. It is a fancy deal. I believe the Press Club is a white tie. I never went because I never got invited.
What?
We don't want Wilson there. I did other black tie dinners, but this was a white tie dinner, and it was a big deal. The Washington Press Club dinner was a big deal. And, news organizations that were members of the Press Club would then, which was a pretty hoity-toity group of people, I'll tell you, they would have very important people sit at their tables for the evening's festivities.
Of course.
And so People magazine invited Sandra Day O'Connor and her husband to sit at the table. And she did sit there. And sitting at the table with them was another legend at the time in Washington, D.C., from football world, from the Redskins. It was John Riggins. And we called him Riggo. One of the most impressive players to ever play for the Washington Redskins. Riggo was a character. and by the time he got to the table, he was 3 sheets to the wind.
Oh boy.
Oh, here we go.
And he was a bigger than life personality, and he at one point turned and said, "You're wrapped a little too tight, Sandy baby. Relax, relax."
Sandy baby.
Sandy baby. Yeah. And everybody, believe it or not, she apparently thought it was funny and was not offended by it at all. She had a sense of humor about herself. But before the night was over, Riggo passed out and slept on the floor.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious.
I never had a chance to ask John Riggins. I did have a conversation with John Riggins years later about some other thing that he had done. And I sort of said, I asked him some pretty impertinent questions, expecting, because it wasn't like a live remote. I mean, he was sitting across the table from me. And I asked him some questions about things that had happened like that in the course of his. And I thought he was going to stand up and punch me. I mean, I really thought I was going to get hit pretty hard. Yeah, he was an interesting cat. I think he did have struggles with alcohol, but I think he finally got his life in order and is revered, of course, in Washington, D.C. because of all the years when he was he was like Derrick Henry.
Oh, that's awesome.
He was that kind of athlete.
Yeah, he looks like a beast. I'm looking up now.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't stop him. He was really something. But
yeah, like you said, nicknamed Riggo and Diesel. That's nice. That's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah. So anyway, Sandra Day O'Connor dies at the age of 93. She was a trendsetter, and she shattered barriers. But I mean, if she really wasn't, what you would call a women's rights advocate, she wasn't, one of those people who was always, pushing. She just took the job seriously, and happened to be the first person who to ever serve on the high court as a woman. And again, it was Ronald Reagan. What you would think, well, it'd be a Democrat that would do that. No, it was Ronald Reagan who appointed Sandra Day O'Connor. She was a brilliant jurist and a woman who, changed the laws of this country in many ways. You may not always have agreed with her legal reasoning, and some people did get upset with her from time to time when she would be the swing vote to give the liberal members of the court the victory. But she was an independent jurist. And really, honestly, that's what you want in a judge, don't you? You want somebody who looks at the facts and looks at the law and doesn't look at ideology. They're not supposed to be politically motivated. Now, they may have conservative jurisprudence positions, but they're not really supposed to be politicians. And she was well thought of and well loved. And I'm saddened to hear about her passing today at the age of 93. She was, by all accounts, perhaps the most powerful justice for much of the 24 years that she served on the highest court in the land. It is 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Big news from D.T. McCall's. If you've been thinking of buying a gun safe but putting it off now, I said now is the time to take action. Just in time for the holidays. I mean, what dad, what guy wouldn't love to have a big gun safe? Gun safes are sales tax free. I said sales tax free. It's hunting season, so be sure you're keeping your gun safe when you're not in the tree stand with a gun safe from D.T. McCall. You may not know it, but D.T. McCall's is the largest Liberty Safe dealer in all of Tennessee. And there's a good reason for that. Free delivery and setup. Others charge $500 at least for delivery and setup of the big models, $300 for the smaller models. D.T. McCall & Sons delivers every safe free every time period, no setup charge. It's the way to do it. And, think about this as well. Security is important these days, and gun safes can be used for other things. They're used for other valuables, cash, jewelry, important documents, wills, deeds, car titles, whatever you need to keep safe from theft or fire. You can do it with your gun safe. Save some big bucks now on your gun safe when you shop at your local D.T. McCall's. Go to dtmccalls.com for locations and information.
Awaken 180 is my solution for weight loss.
Laughing, learning, friendships. Not the words normally associated with trying to lose weight. But with Awaken 180, you're not trying. Weekly weight loss while gaining the tools to keep it off. Free support for life, friends for life. Learn how over 17,000 clients succeeded with the solution for weight loss.
Aid confusions in Gaza, birth rate in Tennessee, and a popular burger joint could be making its way to the volunteer state soon. Those stories and more coming up. 5:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
It's time once again for a fan favorite that we call the Wide, Wide World of Sports with Mac Maury, or Mac Maury's Wide, Wide World of Sports, or something like that. Once again, here's the host of your program. You know him, you love him, you can't live without him. It's the one and only Mac Maury, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah. We made it another week. Happy Friday.
That's right. Yeah, happy Friday to you. And so I guess we're going to be looking forward to the Titans game this week, right?
That's exactly right. I figured we'd talk quickly about the Titans matchup, as well as maybe just a quick preview, maybe hearing a quick thought from Weber on this big Georgia football against Alabama football game. I want to hear his thoughts here real quick. But I figured, yeah, as usual, we'll start with the Titans preview. They take on the Colts. This is another division rival game, just like last week, taking on the Panthers. Not a division rival game. Sorry, the Panthers weren't. But taking on another game in the Colts, who are division rival in another game like the Panthers. That's the comparison I'm trying to make. That this is a game that the Titans could win. You look at the rest of their schedule: Dolphins, Texans, Seahawks, Texans again, the Jaguars. The Texans are on the fringe, but the rest of those teams are making the playoffs. They just are. Those are playoff teams. The Texans, I think, are going to end up making the playoffs, but it's a tight race in the AFC with a lot of teams involved, and they are in the thick of it. The Colts, they're behind there. They're behind the Texans. They're more of in the tier of where the Titans have been swimming, maybe just a step above. But they have some injuries. One of the best players in the league, Jonathan Taylor, their running back, he is out. He will not be playing this Sunday. And so this game at home, big one for the Titans, hoping to get another win and make a little streak here. And a wide receiver for the Titans, a name that we've talked about here on this segment, Treylon Burks is looking to make his way back from his injury a few weeks ago. It was a scary injury. He was on the ground for quite some time. He's been practicing, and he's hopefully he's questionable right now. So we'll see if he's able to play on Sunday. That's at least a bright spot, moving forward in the right direction for him.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. So your prediction on a score there?
Let's go. This is an offense that can still put up points. They got another running back in Zach Moss behind Taylor that's been productive in his absence with Taylor's on and off injuries this year. Gardner Minshew likes to fly it around. I like this first-year head coach and Shane Steichen with the Colts. I'm going to go with the Colts win over here, but let's keep it a little lower scoring than usual than the Colts maybe have been used to. I'm going to go 24-17. Colts win.
All right.
Wow. Well,
send your
Titans
cards and letters to Mac Maury.
Sorry.
Keeping it real.
Honestly, I want to know what you think. I mean, we don't want to be homers here. I mean, we all love our Titans, but I want it straight from you. That's what we expect. All right, Chris, give us your take on the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. SEC championship is this weekend. I'm sure, everyone's going to tune into this. I mean, it's just this is huge implications for both teams as far as the college football playoff goes. I think if Alabama does find a way to beat Georgia, they probably will find their way into the top four and into the playoff. But, this is one of those things. Georgia hasn't had any luck against Alabama in the SEC championship game. Now, they did beat them in the title game for their first championship. But they haven't fared well against them in the SEC championship game. But I'll say this is the most confident that I've been in a Georgia football team since this run started. Even going back to like 2018 when they were on the fringe and lost to Alabama in the SEC championship game. I think Georgia is the better team all around. There are question marks on whether Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey are going to play. They're kind of holding that close to the vest. They're both recovering from injuries still. I think they're both going to be on the field.
Those are big players for your offense.
No doubt, big playmakers for the offense. But I'll say this, I feel better about the outcome of this game than I have in previous years where they've met Alabama in the title game. It's always been, the big task, the daunting Alabama, of course. Can't get over that hump, can't beat Alabama. Alabama is not where they used to be. It's kind of like they've changed roles. Georgia is now where Alabama was, and Alabama where Georgia was. So I feel good about this game. I think Mac, we were talking the other day, you mentioned that Georgia could kind of blow this open at some point. And I hadn't really thought about that, but I think you're right. It could be a blowout on the Georgia side, but I don't think it will. But I could not see Alabama blowing it open and blowing Georgia out. They could win. But I don't think it's that same dynamic Alabama offense. I think both these teams have great defenses. I don't think there's going to be a ton of points on the board. But I do think Georgia's going to squeak one out. I'm going to predict a Georgia victory 30-27.
I really like that score. I like that score. I like that closeness. I'd probably go even like 30-24, and maybe just a little bit more of that gap. But I agree, still a close game. But you're right. I mean, you could see Georgia winning by 3 scores. Alabama, there's no way. You guys are going to be right there in the thick of it. Georgia's too good to lose big. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great game. I'm excited.
Well, I can't wait. I'm going to watch both games for sure, and we'll get to talk. We'll talk about it on Monday. Right now, it's time to take the sports hat off, put on the news hat, because it's news time on Super Talk 99.7.
.5:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 60 degrees, cloudy in Music City. Full weather forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Confusion over aid for Gaza. Israelis saying that they'll restart the flow of humanitarian assistance after an interruption blamed on new fighting after the ceasefire with Hamas ended. Excuse me. According to a new report that broke in the middle of a White House briefing today, National Security Council official John Kirby said earlier during that briefing that aid deliveries were interrupted when fighting resumed today, and he blamed stalled negotiations on further hostage releases by Hamas.
What I can tell you is that the president and the entire national security team will continue to remain deeply engaged on this as we continue to want to see more hostages released and more aid getting in.
Kirby continued saying, quote, the onus is on Hamas to be able to produce a list of hostages that can get in so that we can try to get this pause back in place. Right now in Tennessee, researchers claim data shows more babies were born after the abortion ban than would have been the case before it. Tennesseans seeking abortions are having to travel 130 miles more than before or are using medications to self-manage abortions. News 2 interviewed study co-author Middlebury economics professor Caitlin Myers.
When you look at the births data, it's clear that roughly a fifth or perhaps a quarter of people seeking abortions are deterred by the bans, are not finding one of these ways, and are giving birth as a result.
And in Tennessee, there was a 3.3% increase in the birth rate the first half of the year, a whole 1% more than in states without a ban. Right now in Tennessee, an In-N-Out Burger in Middle Tennessee, it's in the planning stages. It's been proposed to have it in Antioch in the Century Farms development. In-N-Out announced previously that they'll be putting a corporate office in Franklin. That'll create around 280 jobs. And construction for that office expected to be complete by 2026. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
You know, with Genesis Diamonds, they are rolling back prices and finance rates so you can get headliner gifts for this Christmas. Maybe it's that pair of diamond earrings or that all-new designer fashion bracelet or a dazzling 2-carat diamond ring. It's all the more affordable because at Genesis, they've got special pricing across the board and, this is important, 0% interest financing for 5 years. So you can get that $3,000 diamond pendant and pay just $50 a month. Or that $6,000 eternity ban for just $100 a month. Everything's included in this amazing holiday offer. All GIA-certified natural diamonds and all lab-grown diamonds, even our luxury pre-owned Rolex watches. Imagine that $15,000 Rolex for just $250 a month. You could even finance the sales tax. So don't let talk of rising prices and high interest rates dampen your holiday spirit. At Genesis, they are lowering prices and taking interest rates down to zero zip. Not a bit of interest. Get that amazing gift they deserve and make your money go further than ever. A Merry Christmas from Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs, on approved credit. It is 38 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. End of the week. It is the start of a new month, December 1st, 24 shopping days till Christmas. So get busy out there. You want to have something special under that tree or in that stocking. I think, Cabana Wife said I'd probably just get a lump of coal this year.
Same as usual, huh?
Yeah, same as usual. That's the way it goes. It's a time for the thing we like to do this time of day on Fridays. A little round two. Well, you jumped the gun on that.
I just couldn't wait.
A little thing that we like to call Phone Your Farb Friday, where you get on the phone and you tell us what's on your mind. 615-737-9986. Maybe you have a bee in your bonnet. Maybe you have a burr in your saddle. Maybe you have a bug in a place where I hope you never, ever really have a bug. Yeah, that's right. So get on the line and share whatever's on your mind. Maybe you have a question. Maybe you want to take umbrage. Maybe you have, you have a question for the host here. We'll take whatever. 615-737-9986. Had a great round earlier. A lot of people were talking about some of the things that we had been discussing. So get on the phone lines. So I got 3 lines open right now. So the first-time callers, we love you. You can't just lurk out there forever. You have to participate sooner or later. 615-737-9986. All right, we're going to start with Aubrey in Murfreesboro. Aubrey, you're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Aubrey?
I just want to say 3 words, and that is roll, tide, roll.
You're taking exception with the predictions by the team here, are you?
Absolutely. They're going to find the new miracle tomorrow.
All right. Well, I don't have a dog in this fight. The only dogs I have are keeping me up at night. But good luck. Good luck to everybody. Robbie in Dixon. Robbie, you're on with Brian on the drive.
How's it going, Brian?
Hey, what's up?
I was just calling about the other person that called earlier about that subsidy that everyone keeps hearing about on like Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily wrong, but it's not accurate either. I personally did it myself. You're not getting any kind of money back, but in Tennessee, you can get a $1,400 subsidy for medical aid.
Hmm?
So, like, if you're not on Medicare, you can get like pretty much free medical like services.
Huh.
But you're not getting any sort of like it gets advertised as being like you're going to get some sort of like card back in the mail that's going to be coming with like, money on it for you to spend however you want it to. That's not the accurate part. But it is accurate as far as like if you don't have Medicaid yet, you can go get it.
I tell you what, I'm going to dig into that, and I promise you that I'll bring something on that next week because that's interesting, and I think it would help a lot of people. So thank you for the background on it, and I will look into it. I want to get some more information. Betty in Columbia. Betty, hello. You're on with Brian on the drive. What's on your mind, Betty?
Okay. I'm upset with the horde of lawyers that they've got denying the papers, the Covenant shooting coming out. I don't think it's right. The shooting was horrendous. She was a special kind of sick when I read those 3 papers.
Right.
Scary sick to society. Somebody like that is not in a bubble. Others had to know her because she said she wrote 12 journals. She wanted to release more papers. Her parents had to know something when she left the house with 2 bags of guns and ammo. She was under psychiatric care. Didn't she tell him? She was under drugs to change as a trans. Doesn't Vanderbilt have a record of that? How did they make her feel? Was she ever abused?
Well, there's some stuff out there that you're saying that I have not heard, but one way or the other, I agree with you that there's so many. Well, okay, I missed it. I missed some of those things that you talked about. But I would say to you that I do believe that we would be well served to have this information. Look, it's unusual. I mean, number one, mass shootings are hardly ever carried out by women. I mean, I think you have to go back like 20 years to find one, and it's one of those things like it was a party where somebody got offended and they came back with a gun. It's that kind of thing. What we're talking about here is something very, very different. And I want to know what was motivating and what kind of therapy was she undergoing. We know that she was undergoing therapy. We know all kinds of things, but we don't know what the motivation was, and we don't know what was going on in this individual's mind. And we really would, I think, benefit as a community for having that information. Now, I understand the parents, this is painful, but I also wonder, why are there so many people who don't want these papers to come out? I mean, beyond, that it might be hurtful to the parents or to the children. I get that. But why would the church and why would the school be involved in saying that they don't want it to come out? Is there something in some of those writings that they don't want us to see? I don't know. I'm just asking. I don't have any inside information, but I wonder. And anytime there's that many people who are saying no, we can't release this. I wonder, what's the motivation? Is it purely to protect the children and the families, or is there some other motivation to trying to block the release of this information that normally in every other case like this would already be released? Betty, thank you. I could go on for an hour. How about Gerald in Lawrenceburg? Hello, Gerald. You're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Gerald?
Yes, I hope I'm right. And best I remember when I was a child, it's just 9 days. That's when the dog, puppies and kittens get their eyesight.
How many days? How long is it? 9 days.
9 days.
Well, and
that's what I remember.
Well, I'm excited to hear that because I'm ready for this little pup of ours to open her eyes. I noticed that she weighs. I got the reading it today, 13.4 ounces right now, and even though her eyes are closed, she's feisty, and her little ears are starting to stand up. She's just the cutest little thing. Thank you for the call, man. If I'm incorrect, I stand corrected. Thank you. How about Frank in Nashville? You're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Frank?
Hello, I'm from Nashville, and we need more sidewalks in Nashville. The old city limits after 1960, when they put in Metro, there were sidewalks in the old city, but in the suburbs, there are no sidewalks. It's dangerous for pedestrians, very dangerous.
Yeah. You think as part of the transportation plan, they need to put in sidewalks?
Well, yes, absolutely.
All right. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. How about Don in Murfreesboro? Don, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Don?
Hey, what's ever happened with the cameras in the lobby at Funk's office?
See, that's Glenn Funk's office. Yeah, that's an investigation that's being conducted by. There is an investigation being done on state level about whether or not the cameras in Glenn Funk's office had the ability not only to record video for security purposes, but might have had the ability to record audio, so that conversations might have been picked up that would have been helpful in the prosecution of a particular person or something like that, pick up conversations between clients and attorneys and that kind of stuff. I don't know. I haven't heard any more on it, but I know it's ongoing, and I know that it hasn't gone away yet. Maybe I should check in and see if there's an update on that, but nothing yet, as far as I know. I think if it had, I would have seen it. All right. We got some phone lines open, 615-737-9986. Would love to have you join us with your thought, your comment, your question. Joe in Stanton, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What do you say, Joe?
Oh, not a lot. I was just wondering, maybe you were asking the other day about what the deal was with the Blue Oval City and with Ford doing all their scaling back in other plants, but not here.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if you think maybe it's got something to do with the UAW doesn't have their claws into this plant yet.
Well, I don't know if there's a union element to it or not, but here's what I do know. GM and Ford and Stellantis are all sort of now crying in their beer. And they're saying, look, the electric vehicles are just not selling. We've got a real problem. We need to rethink our EV strategy. And I know that Blue Oval City was I think, if I remember correctly, and I think I'm correct in this, was largely going to be a place where they built electric cars. Well, now they're all talking about not building as many electric cars or changing and going to build more hybrids. But the internal combustion engine, if they had their way, would not die. And the reason that it is dying is because we have a situation involving the Biden administration, which is trying to push EVs. Well, now the dealers, the car dealers around the country, and the major automakers are all trying to try to make the case that maybe we need to revisit this because the EPA standards that you have set for us are so draconian that the only way we can meet them with is electric cars, and we can't sell electric cars. So you're going to drive us into the dirt if you make us keep building electric cars that nobody wants to buy. They're expensive, and we're losing money on them, hand over fist. And by the way, we just had to pony up a bunch more money for your friends over in the union, the UAW, Joe. So maybe you could ease up on this demand for electric cars a little bit, because I don't think it makes a lot of sense for us to continue to try to make electric cars if nobody's going to buy them. So I've looked. And every time I see anything written about Blue Oval City, they say it's still on schedule. But I do think that the major auto companies right now are going through a reassessment about electric vehicles. It's pretty clear. I mean, the CEO of Ford has said so. So I do believe that what we may see is a pulling back of that, and it could impact Blue Oval City. But I've not seen anything that says that has specifically started to happen. All right, real quick. Dan in Franklin. Dan, you're on with Brian on the Drive. What's on your mind there, Dan?
Hi, Brian. I know you talked about it during the week, and just want to say I enjoy your show. But
thanks.
I also wanted to say that I know you've been talking about, why is Ron DeSantis and Haley, why are they still in the race? And I think they're still in the race because they're laying the groundwork for 2028. Remember that Trump, he actually ran briefly, I think, in 2016. So, these folks are going to do that, and it's a smart strategy.
Yeah, I mean, to lay out, to raise your profile with the Republican voters. Yeah, I mean, there's a certain advantage to it right now. But I think when you see people like the Koch brothers putting big money down on behalf of Nikki Haley, they're actually hoping that somehow they can turn this thing around. Look, I saw a bunch of polling data recently that suggested that Trump is still, he's about 30, I think it's 30 some points ahead in Iowa. But I mean, when you look at nationwide, he's like 50 and more points ahead. I mean, really, it's like, I think I saw one the other day, he was 60 points ahead. I don't know how you overcome that. When you hear people say he's the expected nominee, I think that's right. Unless something changes that I don't foresee. But, look, they'll stay in there and they'll hang in there until it becomes clear that they don't have a chance. And maybe it is about raising their profile for the next election cycle. Thank you for all your calls. 51 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. Have you ever thought about why we invest in the stock market? Well, you often hear because we want to protect ourselves from inflation. Well, what is inflation? It's prices going up. Who's raising prices? Companies. What do you own when you own stocks? You own the companies raising prices, so it helps protect us from that. The other thing is this. Think about the most successful people you know. They're typically business owners. And you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. Now, if we think about the stock market, a lot of people worry about, well, what if the stock market drops and it never comes back? Well, this is another thing that I like to explain to people. If the stock market goes down and it never comes back, what does that mean? That means that earnings went down and they never came back up again. So earnings went down. If earnings go down, what else goes down? Taxes go down. If taxes go away, what else goes away? The government goes away. If the government goes away, the FDIC goes away. So think about it. Everything is built on the stock market. That's why I don't ever worry about the stock market going down. Everybody has the same goal in mind when stocks go down. Get it to come back up because we got to get earnings to come back up. Now, you have two things at your control to get earnings to come back up. One is sales. We can change what we're selling or sell more of whatever we have if we can. And if we can't do that, we can reduce our expenses. And that's exactly what companies do. You'll notice that they lay off people when things get bad, and hence that is why the stock market has recovered from every downturn throughout all of history. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
6:01, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 60 degrees. We'll tell you about that weekend weather forecast and how rainy it may be. Latest forecast traffic report 5 minutes away. Temporary ceasefire between Israel and Hamas has come to a close. Both sides once again ramping up the fighting inside Gaza and blaming one another for the end of the ceasefire. Karen Travers has the latest from the Biden administration.
The White House says Hamas is to blame for the pause in fighting ending because they failed to produce a list of additional hostages they would release. National Security spokesman John Kirby.
The President and the entire national security team will continue to remain deeply engaged on this as we continue to want to see more hostages released and more aid getting in.
Kirby added that with the pause in fighting over, aid is no longer moving into Gaza.
The people who suffer the most because of that are the people of Gaza, the Palestinian people.
And today, a shocking report came from the New York Times claiming that Israel knew about Hamas's plan for a terror attack prior to October 7th, that they had intelligence but dismissed it. Back here in Tennessee with an active investigation, Murray County deputies looking for a man who robbed a market at gunpoint. This was last night around 8:30 in a Coley's market. The man was dressed in all black, came in with a gun. He took the cash from the register, then left. They're asking for information from any possible witnesses to this crime. Staying in the mid-state, authorities say a criminal South American group is burglarizing homes in Brentwood.
Channel 4 says Brentwood police say this group started operating in 2022, targeting areas with large homes. Arrests were made. Things kind of died down, but they're back starting last week. Most of the break-ins happening between 5 and 9 o'clock when homeowners are out to dinner or running errands after work. They're entering subdivisions from adjoining neighborhoods, common areas, and tree lines, getting into homes through windows or back doors. Brentwood police say keep the lights and cameras on and spread the word so that your neighbors are aware. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
7 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, and this is The Drive for this first day of December. 24 shopping days till Christmas, 24 shopping days till Christmas, so get busy. We got a lot of stuff to cover this hour. Some stories that are breaking late in the day on a Friday. You know, a lot of times stories do break late on a Friday, and usually it's because people don't want you to pay attention to them. But let's go through some of this stuff. Sometimes it's that they don't want you to pay attention. Sometimes they just wait to the last minute, and they want to, finish up their work at the very last minute of the work week. But here we go. Senators are urging Biden to stop travel to China, with China, saying that Beijing cannot be trusted with these new reports of some kind of mysterious illness. Now, I don't know how much to read into this, and I don't want to panic people, and believe me, I don't. But I think this is wise. These are Republican senators who are raising concerns, saying, look, you need to stop the travel with China until we can find out exactly what this mystery illness is all about. It's a respiratory illness that is flooding hospitals in Beijing and northern China. And we don't trust the Chinese to tell us the truth because they didn't tell us the truth the last time with COVID-19. And Chinese officials told the World Health Organization that the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention that they are suffering from a surge of known pathogens, including respiratory, I can't say this, but a respiratory virus and the bacteria that causes walking pneumonia in children. However, the Senate Republicans on Friday said that Beijing obfuscated the origins of COVID-19 in late 2019 and cannot be trusted now. We call on you immediately to restrict travel between the United States and the People's Republic of China. As you know, the Chinese Communist Party has a long history of lying about public health crises, said the letter from Senators Marco Rubio of Florida, J.D. Vance of Ohio, Rick Scott of Florida, Tommy Tuberville of Alabama, and Mike Braun of Indiana. Medical experts say the surge in childhood pneumonia could be caused by seasonal cycles in the northern hemisphere, particularly since many children were not exposed to certain pathogens during the lockdown of COVID-19. Denmark, the Netherlands, and parts of Ohio and Massachusetts have also reported similar surges in childhood respiratory problems. Anecdotally, I'm hearing people talk about this, like they're suffering from something and they don't know quite what it is, and they say it's pretty rough stuff. If history's any indication, we have to be concerned, the senators wrote. The CCP has an incentive to lie, just as they did throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, and any new pathogen could derail its efforts to stimulate its economy. The senators are unwilling to rely on information relayed from China through the World Health Organization, citing the organization's deference to China in the early days of the coronavirus pandemic. That is true. We should not wait for the WHO to take action, given its track record of slavish deference to the CCP. We must take the steps necessary to protect the health of Americans and our economy. Okay, but I'm not putting back on a mask. That's just all there is to it. I'm not doing it. This breaking late today, a federal appeals court upheld a lower court ruling Friday ordering Texas to remove a series of buoys installed in the waters along the Rio Grande River, finding that the state violated laws governing navigable waterways by placing the barriers along the U.S.-Mexico border. In affirming an earlier ruling, the 2-1 decision from the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals found the lower court properly considered the threat to navigation and federal government operations on the Rio Grande, as well as the potential threat to human life that the floating barrier created. The floating buoys cover 1,000 feet in the Rio Grande, which with anchors in the riverbed, arranged in a chain stretching up and down the river, each separated by a rounded blade with serrated edges similar to a circular saw. Put in place around July 10th, installed just days after 4 migrants, including an infant, drowned trying to cross the river. In August, authorities found a body floating near the buoys. The decision, written by Judge Dana Douglas, a Biden appointee, noted that the risk the buoys pose to migrants is supported by Texas's own statements noting the treachery of venturing across the Rio Grande River. Okay. So they tried to put up barbed wire, and the courts ruled that the Biden administration was proper in cutting the barbed wire, and now they're saying you can't put up the big buoys in the middle of the river. This is a blow to Governor Abbott, but I would say it's a blow to all Americans because Abbott was trying to do something that the government will not do. I would simply say I hope it goes to another level of review. I hope it goes to the Supreme Court, and I hope that this is the case that will take it to the highest court in the land, and I hope the highest court in the land says we've got to enforce the laws of our country with regard to the border. In a dissenting opinion, Judge Don Willett, an appointee of former President Trump, said history of activity along the Rio Grande was not extensive enough for the waters to be considered navigable. Well, I think that's true. Without sufficient evidence of past use or susceptibility to use in commerce along this 1,000-foot Rio Grande segment, there can be no finding of historical navigability. Try saying that 3 times real quick. Historical navigability. All right, so there's that, breaking late today. The courts also ruled today that Donald Trump can be sued in civil lawsuits related to the January 6, 2021 U.S. Capitol riot. The decision will have significant implications for several cases against Trump in the Washington, D.C. federal court related to the 2020 election. The decision rises out of lawsuits brought by Capitol police officers and Democrats in Congress. The opinion written by Chief Judge Sri Serena, I can never say this guy's name. Well, anyway, it's a judge, a chief judge in the D.C. federal court, states that I'm sorry, if you tried it, you couldn't do any better, I promise you. It states that not everything the president does or says while in office is protected from liability. The president does not spend every minute of every day exercising official responsibilities. When he acts outside the functions of his office, he does not continue to enjoy immunity. When he acts as an unofficial private capacity, he is subject to civil suits like any private citizen. So, and the decision allows 3 lawsuits against Trump from Capitol police officers and members of Congress who are seeking recovery, emotional distress, and physical injury to move forward. And so there is that. 2 of the lawsuits were brought by Democrat House members, while a third was brought by Capitol police officers. Meanwhile, Jonathan Turley, a legal expert that I have a lot of respect for, says that Letitia James' case against Trump could be running headfirst into a constitutional brick wall. This is the case out of Georgia, and I'm sorry, no, this is the case out of New York, excuse me. This is the case out of New York that's ongoing now, in which the courts have said that former President Trump overstated the value of his properties in order to get certain loans. And I'm telling you, this is excuse the very bad pun, it's a trumped-up case is what it is. There's no evidence that anybody lost any money here. In fact, the banks made money. The banks were happy to have the business, and if the banks had any concern, they would have immediately raised them, because I'll tell you, banks don't lend money to people who don't have the backup to support those loans. They just don't. Nobody complained. This is just something that Letitia James came up with as a way to get at Trump, because that's what she campaigned on and said she was going to do. And this Engoron guy is a joke. This judge is an absolute travesty to judicial prudence. I'm telling you, this guy is bad news. He's got it in for Trump just as badly. This is a guy who, when Trump was testifying, there were some objections and it got a little heated, and he said, I don't care what your client has to say. Well, the man's on trial, and you don't care what he has to say? Automatic mistrial, in my mind, right there. But there's a legal argument here. Let's see if I can sort of explain it as Jonathan Turley does. George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley suggested Friday that New York Attorney General Letitia James push for $250 million in penalties and the dissolution of former President Donald Trump's companies could render the civil fraud case against him unconstitutional. It's relatively rare for civil damages to trigger constitutional review, and it's far from clear this case will rise to that level. But New York law is unique in allowing massive penalties without the loss of a single dollar by a bank. However, James wants dissolution and crippling damages, and that could trigger a higher court review. And then you got Turley citing other cases. In 1996, a case of BMW of North America versus Gore. The Supreme Court found that $2 million in punitive fines imposed on a company that repainted cars damaged in transit without informing customers violated the due process clause because it was grossly excessive, Turley said. There is an example of a case that was supposed to be a civil case that gets reviewed by the high court because it was so far out of bounds. One distinction between that case and the Trump proceeding is that the Supreme Court found no intentional false statements by BMW, but effective dissolutions of Trump business and $250 million damage may raise analogous concerns over excessive penalties. In the Trump case, the banks made money, Turley said. It would be akin to the car owner's value going up with the paint job, but still hitting BMW with punitive damages. I mean, this is such a joke. It's so unfair. And there's no doubt how this judge is going to rule, but it is rare but not unheard of for the high court to step in and take these cases and say, look, this is so far beyond the pale that we really need review here. And on occasion, rare, the high court has stepped in such civil cases and has done something about it. The GOP is fighting Hunter Biden, and they're pushing hard to get him to show up for a deposition. He doesn't want to do a deposition. He wants to do a public hearing, and they're saying, This from thehill.com. Late today, House impeachment inquiry leaders seeking testimony from Hunter Biden sought to turn his offer for public testimony on its head Friday, writing that he had affirmed his availability for the deposition they demanded in an earlier subpoena. The letter to Biden's attorney from House Oversight and Accountability Committee Chair James Comer, Jim Jordan of the House Judiciary Committee, comes after a letter from Biden's attorney earlier in the week saying he was only willing to testify in public. We appreciate your confirmation that Mr. Biden is available and willing to testify on December 13th, the two chairs wrote to Biden's attorney, Abby Lowell. This testimony will occur initially in a deposition setting, as has been the consistent practice of committees of the House of Representatives in recent Congresses during both Republican and Democrat majorities, as well as these committees during this inquiry. We also appreciate your confirmation that Mr. Biden is willing to testify at a public hearing. We look forward to his testimony in a hearing at the appropriate time. So they're pushing back, saying, nope, you got to come in for the deposition. What Abby Lowell's trying to do here is turn it into a big dog and pony show where Democrats who control half the time in a committee hearing, or roughly half the time, will be able to try to turn it into a clown show rather than actually try to get information from Hunter Biden in that setting. So come have the deposition, and then you can go have your clown show. But we're going to answer the questions, and I hope they stand by it. I hope they don't change their mind. Seems like they're standing pretty firm on it. This will probably turn into a contempt of Congress thing, which could be dragged out for a long, long time. Don't underestimate the wiliness of Hunter Biden's attorney, Abby Lowell. I've tangled with the guy, and I'm telling you, he's a mess. He's formidable, is the way to put it. 20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Some exciting news for many of you who have lived here a long time. You know about Eurofix. You know they've been in Middle Tennessee, the place to go for your European car repairs for now 24 years. 24 years. Almost a quarter of a century. We've all gotten to watch them grow. I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, the folks at Eurofix are now proud to announce the 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix, on Mount Juliet Road, right across the street from the Dairy Queen. Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. It's pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in a barn in the backyard of his single-wide trailer to grow into 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. So don't waste any more time. Call 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX. Or visit myEurofix.com. It's 25 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. And a reminder that we have a Super Talk live event Thursday, December 7th from 4 to 8 p.m. at Scoreboard at Cedar Creek Marina. So that'll be next week, of course. And what's going to happen here is that you're going to have Dan, Chris, and Matt are all going to be over at Cedar Creek starting at 4 o'clock. I'll be doing the show from here, from bucolic Watertown until about 5 o'clock or so. And then I'm going to make a mad dash over here to join you for the last couple hours. We're going to go an extra added bonus hour on Thursday of the drive with all the guys, starting at 4 o'clock and going all the way till 8 o'clock. It's at Scoreboard, Cedar Creek Marina, Mount Juliet. We'll be talking about the year that we're leaving behind and the year that is ahead. So join Dan, Chris, Matt, and me as we broadcast live. Now, with entertainment value at that level, I know you're probably saying, well, Brian, that's got to be an expensive ticket.
$100 at least.
Yeah, I'd say it's well worth it, I would say. So, people are saying, where can I get my ticket? Well, here's the great news. Because we love you, because I'm your friend and radio buddy, I imposed upon him. I said, don't charge him anything. Let's do this for free.
A gift from us to you.
That's right. And they no, that's not what happened. They just informed me it's free. Details at 997WTN.com. But it'll be a good time, and it's going to be brisk, but it's going to be a lot of fun, I think. So come on out. As I said before, I'll say it again. The last time we did an event in Mount Juliet, it was a great turnout, and so make sure that you show up. Dan Mandis, my friend and radio brother, is about to lose his mind because Middle Tennessee is getting its first In-N-Out burger, and he is, this is the thing that he raves about. He said, sure, I've heard about your Whataburger. Sure, I've heard about your Five Guys. Sure, I've heard about this or that. He says, but man, I'm telling you, you go to California, you got to get you an In-N-Out burger. Well, they're going to have the first one in Antioch. And Dan will be, I'm sure, in the parking lot that day.
Oh, he'll line up the night before.
Yeah, he'll be one of those people.
Yeah.
They're putting, and by the way, they're going to be doing more than just this one in Antioch. In fact, they're putting a corporate hub in Franklin, creating about 280 jobs. So they say construction for that office is expected to be completed by 26. I don't know. They have a site plan approved with Metro's planning department this week. That would be Antioch Century Farms Development and the William Turner Parkway. So Governor Bill Lee, he's all excited. He's all about it. Means a lot of opportunity, a lot of jobs. Plus, we're going to get to have a double fries and shakes right here in the great state of Tennessee. I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
I've never been to one.
I've been to one about 6 years ago. I was out in California. I was not very impressed. It was okay.
I think it's one of those things where, if you grew up with it, you have memories about it. Like, for example, everybody's heard of Taco Bell, right? But in my hometown, there was a company called Taco Villa. Nobody went to Taco Bell. Everybody went to Taco Villa. And it was sort of more of a regional thing there in West Texas. It was, I think there were some in Odessa, and there were some in Lubbock, and there were some around. And it turned, and I'm telling you, I ate a lot of those bean burritos over at the Taco Villa. And all my friends, say the same thing, that when they go home, one of the first things they want to do is go to the Taco Villa and get a bean burrito or eat some of the things they used to eat when they were kids. And I did that last time I was home in Odessa, and it was just like I remembered. Nothing had changed whatsoever.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was good.
So
I mean,
good?
it brought back a lot of good memories, I mean, but most people would say, it's a burrito. You wouldn't be all that excited about it. Now, I, being from Texas, love the Whataburger. And a lot of people say, well, the Whataburger's pretty good. And we got a bunch of them now. We got them
everywhere.
In Smyrna. There's one in Lebanon. There's one out there on 109, just off the interstate. Clarksville, Gallatin, Murfreesboro, and Hermitage. And now they are breaking ground in Springfield. I also happened to be driving through Mount Juliet and the other day, and I saw that the new one they're building there, it's at the real hub of some of the crossroads there in Mount Juliet, is almost done.
Wow.
It's right next to a big car wash. So between the people stacking up to wash their cars on a day and the people stacking up to get a Whataburger, I can only imagine that the traffic is going to be nightmarish, but one way or the other. This will be the new Whataburger is going to be in Springfield. It's the former Shoney's next to the Springfield Inn is where they're going to build it. I'm sure that means something to you in Springfield.
Yeah, some of those people know. Yeah.
Yeah. 31 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock now on Super Talk. Let me tell you about the folks over at USS United Structural Systems. They are good people who do good work. If you have a problem with your home, the foundation repair, waterproofing issues, you have cracks in your bricks or, doors or windows that stick or cracks in the walls. I mean, all the things that you're supposed to be looking for. Well, that's an indication you have a foundation issue. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people are afraid to go down this path because they say, oh, man, that's going to be a big deal. Well, you know what? It could be something big that needs to be fixed. It could be a small problem that will become bigger if you don't fix it. Or it just might be nothing at all. It could be something pretty simple. The problem is you don't know. And you got to find somebody who's an expert. And you need peace of mind. Somebody's not going to try to mess you around or try to drive up the cost by upselling you on other products. No, you don't need that. You need people who just come out there, give it to you straight from the shoulder, and then, if you decide to go forward, at USS, it's pretty easy. You don't have to pay a penny until the job's done. They're not going to give you a lot of pressure. And boy, I'm telling you, people have been wowed by the work. Jerry in Hermitage wrote, "This is the best crew we have ever had do work on our house." Jeffrey said that the service was A+++. And on top of all that, the work they did actually solved my problem. Constant, excellent experience. Put me at ease with the whole process. I mean, people rave about this company. So if you have foundation issues, if you need waterproofing work at your house, call the company that, I would call. Call the folks at USS, serving the Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama, online at USSTN.com. Or call this number, 615-488-7855. It is 39 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. We've got about 21 minutes left to go before we hand it off to Mark Levin, the great one, and wrap up our work week and kick off the weekend. with the SEC championship. You say 3 o'clock Middle Tennessee time.
That is correct.
That'll be good. And then we got the Titans game on Sunday. A lot of things to watch. And, you know, the fact that there's an SEC playoff is a really good thing, because I can make the case that I have to watch the SEC playoff, and we're not going to watch the Hallmark Channel this weekend.
Yeah, let me know how that turns out.
At least a little break, at least a little break. That'll be a good game, though. It's going to be a great game.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to it.
Ready.
All right. I'll tell you something I'm not looking forward to, the upcoming debate that's going to happen in the city of Nashville, Davidson County, as they begin the process of trying to solve their transportation issues. It's a mess. We all agree traffic in Nashville is a disaster. Nashville, the roads leading into Nashville are a disaster. I think there were some bad planning designs, or maybe we've just grown so quickly that we now have more traffic than we can handle with the things that were built, and we haven't built anything new. I don't know which it is. But one way or the other, the city of Nashville is now in the process of coming up with a 10-year action plan. I always get worried when you hear government say, we've got an action plan. Hi, we're here from the government, and we've got an action plan, so we're here to help you with your traffic issues. Okay. It's currently in draft form. They want to release the final version early next year. And so now what they were doing is they say, here's our draft, here's our ideas, here's the things we're thinking about, and you give us a little feedback, and then we'll put the final touches on the report and release it. And then, guess what? It's going to happen. A lot of people are saying that pressure will be brought to bear on new mayor Freddie O'Connell. I don't know that it's pressure. He may want to do it. To raise taxes to pay for some of the things that they claim are going to ease traffic. Now, I'm going to go through some of this stuff, and look, I'm telling you, I don't have much hope that this is actually going to make a big change in the kind of problems we have with traffic. Incremental change, maybe, but how much is incremental change going to cost? How much, what's the benefit versus the pain that we all would have to pay in Davidson County? Well, you'd have to pay. I don't live in Davidson County, but you'd have to pay to make the traffic go away. See, I think that they have to come to the terms with one thing, and it's a hard thing to do, and that is we have to come to terms with the fact that transportation issues that we have in our region are regional. It's not something that Davidson County can fix on its own. And I give high marks to the governor for trying something with these hot lanes. I think that's going to help. I really do. But, I know they're controversial. Some people don't like them, but I think it really will make a change. And you don't have to use them if you don't want to use them. But I think they will make a big change and take some of the traffic that is already in the regular lanes that will be free. Are you still there?
Yeah, we're still here.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just had a power surge here. I apologize. That was weird. Okay, but anyway, where was I? Okay, so the problems that they have are regional, and I don't think that they're going to solve them by just doing it within Nashville proper. But he's gonna be asking you for more tax dollars. Here's what the Tennessean writes: for the 10-year timeline to stick, Nashville will have to come up with a dedicated source of funding for their transportation and transit issues. According to the report, Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell was recently advised to consider holding a November 2024 voter referendum on a tax increase. November 2024. So they want to pin this to the presidential elections. Haven't we done this already? Didn't we try this once before? And didn't it go down in flames? I mean, big time. He's not yet indicated his decision, but I would say this. If you live in Davidson County, get ready. You're either going to have to vote against this thing, or you're going to have to hold on to your wallets, because they're going to come after you for more taxes. That's always the Democrat solution, tax increase. And so we'll watch to see how the new mayor responds to that. So here's some of the things that they are talking about doing. Converting 2nd Avenue into a two-way street over 3 segments would better balance the flow of traffic. The interstate would need to be rebuilt or rearranged to make room for a switch to come to fruition. That will be expensive. So the portion of 3rd Avenue would convert into a one-way northbound, 4th Avenue one-way southbound. While the draft plan shows 7th Avenue becoming a one-way southbound street, that might scrap because 6th is already doing that. Changing pedestrian signals to give people a head start in crossing the street and adding curb bulbs near intersections for additional pedestrians would improve safety for downtown's most vulnerable travelers. NDOT has allocated $14 million toward projects on downtown streets that are part of Nashville's high injury network, where most injuries and deaths occur, to improve safety. In other words, they want to try to keep pedestrian issues down. Look, I want pedestrians to be safe, clearly. As probably one of the few people that you know who has actually been the pedestrian in a vehicle-pedestrian accident. In my case, it was a truck. Brian Wilson versus a truck. And though I'm a stout boy, the truck won big time. And you know whose fault it was? It was Brian Wilson's fault for stepping out in the roadway when I should have stepped out and not looking carefully and not being careful about crossing a street. Dumb, dumb, dumb. And so, what I would say is, if you want to do something that would be helpful, is teach pedestrians not to step in front of traffic, because a lot of this is caused by pedestrians, not necessarily caused by people driving their cars. But okay, so they've already going to spend $14 million on that. But here's one of the things they do want to add, or they're suggesting might be a good idea: cut down on or eliminate the ability of drivers to turn right on red. Oh, I hate that idea. Right on red was one of the greatest things to ever happen to people who drive cars. You don't have to sit there through a long light. You can move on if the traffic allows it. And, you got to look out for the pedestrians. Clearly, you always look to see if they're pedestrians. You watch them. But, don't do away with right on red. Right on red. I always say that's what I want. When I come up to an intersection and it's time, and I'm going to take advantage of the right on, I go, right on red. Saving me some time here.
That would be impossible to enforce anyway. If they did, you just got to put a sign up that says no right on red. Okay, good luck.
Yeah,
People
so
are
you're
still
going to
gonna
sit there
do
and
it.
write tickets? Well, they would probably try to do it. They want to do something. They want to really change up buses and do a loop of some kind around, the downtown area. But here's the line that catches my attention. By the way, this is all coming from an article written by the Tennessean. Shorter bus lanes in sections and queue jump lanes would give transit priority beyond the loop. In other words, bus lanes. Taking away car lanes and giving them over to buses. Hate that idea. The bottom line here is a lot of this stuff is they don't want you to drive in downtown Nashville. They want you to not drive. And that's not going to work for people who live 25 and 30 miles out and go to work in Nashville every day. I was one of them. 2/3 of those surveyed in the downtown study said they don't feel safe biking downtown. Well, that's fine. I question, number one, this survey. Because 2/3 said they don't feel safe biking, but how many actually want to bike? Yeah, I don't feel safe biking in downtown, but I don't need to bike downtown. The thing about bikes is that we take up car lanes to make bike lanes, and it makes it difficult for the cars to get from point A to point B, and there's hardly anybody using the bike lanes. I'm you bikers, you can hate on me all you want. You're a pain in our butts. You're taking up room, and there's not enough of you to take away as many a lot more people driving cars than driving bikes. What are people who live 20 miles out going to do? They're going to ride their bikes to work? Give me a break. Does it work well within the inner city? Maybe in some small areas, yes. But what you're doing by creating bike lanes is you're making it difficult for cars to move. More cars than bikes. Do the math. The needs of the many outweigh the jerks on the bicycles. And so, well, you could use them for e-bikes. E-bikes, okay. E-bikes have a place, I think. I mean, I have an e-bike. I used it when I was down in Florida at the beach. But do we really need more scooters? Because they're going to use them too. I don't know. I have my concerns about that. I hate bikes. I mean, I have a bike and I like to bike, but I don't bike in the middle of heavy traffic. You're insane to do that. So, here's my long and short of it all. They hate cars. They don't want cars to come downtown, and they're going to try to come up with these blue state solutions to try to, everybody drives a bike, or everybody gets on an e-bike, or everybody gets on a bus, and we're going to make it so miserable for you to drive your car that you won't want to come to downtown Nashville. Business people, they're trying to take away your business. 20 minutes, make that 50 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. Have you ever thought about why we invest in the stock market? Well, you often hear because we want to protect ourselves from inflation. Well, what is inflation? It's prices going up. Who's raising prices? Companies. What do you own when you own stocks? You own the companies raising prices, so it helps protect us from that. The other thing is this. Think about the most successful people you know. They're typically business owners. And you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. Now, if we think about the stock market, a lot of people worry about, well, what if the stock market drops and it never comes back? Well, this is another thing that I like to explain to people. If the stock market goes down and it never comes back, what does that mean? That means that earnings went down and they never came back up again. So earnings went down. If earnings go down, what else goes down? Taxes go down. If taxes go away, what else goes away? The government goes away. If the government goes away, the FDIC goes away. So think about it. Everything is built on the stock market. That's why I don't ever worry about the stock market going down. Everybody has the same goal in mind when stocks go down. Get it to come back up, because we got to get earnings to come back up. Now, you have two things at your control to get earnings to come back up. One is sales. We can change what we're selling or sell more of whatever we have if we can. And if we can't do that, we can reduce our expenses. And that's exactly what companies do. You'll notice that they lay off people when things get bad, and hence that is why the stock market has recovered from every downturn throughout all of history. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or call 615-851-1950.